greatest Uniben. Please, you may be seated. Once again, we welcome you to the annual Conference and Innovation Fair put together by the Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development in collaboration with the TED Fund Projects and NUC World Bank Centers of Excellence, University of Benin. The theme of the conference is Research, Innovation and Enterprise. We have very importantly with us this morning the directors of both directorates. Allow me welcome especially this morning the director of the Directorate of TED Fund Projects and NUC World Bank Centers of Excellence, Professor Ehishina Omorege. You're welcome, ma. And also very especially we welcome, I call her the director with a triple work, right? The triple director, Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development, Professor Ngozi Inuigbe. You're welcome, ma. Also, let me say that because we are starting behind schedule, we promise not to waste your time this morning. I understand a lot of us have several tasks ahead of us today, and more so, tomorrow is a lecture-free day and not today. So we would not waste your time. We would move straight to the business of the day. To start this forum this morning, we will be taking the welcome address from the Director, Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development, Professor Ngozi Inuigbe. Please make her welcome to the microphone this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Distinguished guests, respected colleagues, eminent researchers and innovators, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to warmly welcome you to this pre-conference capacity building workshop organized by the Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development as part of our annual research conference and innovation fair. Allow me to first sincerely acknowledge and appreciate our Vice Chancellor, Professor Edobo Bright Omorege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, whose unwavering commitment to research, excellence, innovation, and institutional transformation continues to reposition Uniben as a forward-looking, globally relevant university. His leadership and consistent support for DREED and his mandate have made today possible, and we are deeply grateful. Also allow me to specially acknowledge the Director of TED Fund, World Bank, and NUC Projects, Centers of Excellence. Her astute leadership, your astute leadership, strategic guidance, and sustained support for DREED have strengthened our research ecosystem and expanded the opportunities available to our researchers. We sincerely thank you. Distinguished colleagues, this workshop is timely and necessary. We are at a very critical moment in higher education where research can no longer end at journal publications alone. The global conversation has shifted decisively towards impact, relevance, scalability, and sustainability. Universities that thrive today are those that convert knowledge into solutions, ideas into enterprises, and research into measurable societal and economic value, as we'll see in some of the discussions today. Today's workshop is therefore about bridging a long-standing gap, the gap between research outputs and real-world impact. It's about asking hard but very necessary questions. One of the questions we want to ask ourselves today is, how do we make our research fundable, scalable, and market-ready? The next question will be, how do we transform theses, dissertations, I want to imagine there are postgraduate students here as well, and grant reports into products, services, patents, policies, and enterprises. And then finally, we want to know, how do we ensure that our research not only advances knowledge, but also creates jobs, attracts investments, and solve pressing societal problems? This is why today's focus on commercialization, proposal development, partnerships, and research scaling is deliberate. Through targeted capacity building, online and blended courses, mentorship and proposal clinics, DREED is laying the foundation for a new research culture at University of Benin. One that empowers researchers to compete globally, attract funding, and translate ideas into impact. So I would like to emphasize here that this is not a one-off workshop. We're not ticking the box with this workshop. It's actually the beginning of a structured, sustained process. Outcomes from today will feed directly into 4 things. The first one is strategic collaborations with the College of Postgraduate Studies. The second is the systematic collation of commercially viable research outputs. The third is targeted support for grant applications, innovation pipelines, and spin-offs. And then finally, we're looking towards the development of a strong ecosystem for research to market transition. Distinguished participants, I urge us to engage fully, ask questions boldly, and think expansively. Once again, I want to welcome us and wish us a productive and transformative engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development, Professor Ngozi Noigbe. We'll move straight to the keynote address, and that will be delivered by none other than the Directorate of TED Fund Projects and NUC World Bank Centers of Excellence, University of Benin. Sorry, ma. We'll do a citation on you before you make your presentation. She will be speaking to the subject, the economic imperative, why Nigerian universities must commercialize research. And that citation will be done by my colleague, Donatas. Please make her welcome to the microphone.
Professor Ehimwema Shina Omorige is a professor of biochemistry at the University of Benin, Nigeria. She is a leading researcher in the Department of Biochemistry's Malaria Research, Molecular Biology and Toxicology Unit. Her research interests also spans across clinical biochemistry and the therapeutic potentials of indigenous medicinal plants. She has supervised numerous undergraduate and postgraduate research projects and has published over 90 articles in reputable peer-reviewed journals. Professor Shina has held several academic and administrative leadership positions, including head of department and the director of the TED Fund Project and World Bank NUC Centers of Excellence at the University of Benin. She is a member of the Fellowship Committee of the International Union of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, and she also served as president of the Nigerian Society for Experimental Biology. Welcome, ma.
Thank you, and it's good to be here. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here because it's an unusual workshop that has never been done in the University of Benin in this manner. Though we had one last year, and this year I am sure you are going to have a fantastic experience because Professor Noigbe, as usual, has upgraded the scale. So I'm here to present a paper on the topic, Economic Imperative, Why Nigerian Universities Must Commercialize Research. This is the major focus of the government right now. Throughout last year, we did a lot of training on bridging the gap between academia, the government, and the industry. It's high time we start doing research in line with commercialization. Research nowadays should be translational. At least that is what is done in the outside world. So I think we have all the wherewithal to be able to do that, even in this country, Nigeria, irrespective of the challenges we are faced with. So I will start because of time and do the presentation of the paper. Like I said, I'm honored to be invited to speak at these important engagements themed Bridging the Gap, Commercializing University Research for Economic Impact. I commend the Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development for creating this timely platform to reflect on and reimagine the future of innovation and research in Nigeria. My focus today is on, like I said, the title, Economic Imperative, Why Nigerian Universities Must Commercialize Research. This is not a theoretical or abstract concern. It is a strategic necessity for our universities, for our economy, and for our nation as a whole. Across the world, the role of universities has undergone a profound transformation. Universities no longer function solely as centers of teaching and scholarship. They are now central actors within natural innovation systems, actively forging partnerships with industry, launching technologies, nurturing startups, and contributing directly to job creation and economic growth. From Europe to Asia and across Africa, universities that successfully translate research into market-ready applications are strengthening national competitiveness and offering practical market-ready applications, practical solutions to societal challenges. This evolving global landscape compels us to rethink how knowledge is valued, not only by its academic merits, but by its tangible impact on society and the economy. Nigeria in particular presents a compelling paradox. Our universities generate significant volumes of research across diverse fields such as health, agriculture, engineering, digital technology, public policy, and the social sciences. Yet, too often, these research outputs remain underutilized or confined to academic publications. You know, most times we just do research and publish, and it ends there. There's no avenue for commercialization. So it's high time we start thinking of that now. So these results, the result is a persistent gap between research and practice, between Nigeria innovators and the jobs they could create, and between university outputs and the industries that could adopt and scale them. Closing this gap is essential if university research is to contribute meaningfully to national development and economic transformation. Encouragingly, there is growing policy momentum at the national level to address this challenge. A major step in this direction is the federal government's recent launch of a national research commercialization initiative. So, you know, you people should hold Professor Uniben to this. If you are interested in translational research, there's a new government policy to encourage that. So as part of this effort, the government has inaugurated two key committees, a steering committee and a policy drafting committee, to develop and implement a national research to commercialization policy. The steering committee, chaired by the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, is responsible for providing strategic oversight and ensuring alignment with national development priorities. The policy drafting committee, on the other hand, has been tasked with developing a detailed policy framework that addresses financing mechanisms, implementation pathways, and collaboration structures across sectors. The overarching objective of this initiative is to establish clear, structured, and naturally consistent frameworks that convert research outputs into commercial, industrial, and social value, while strengthening linkages between universities, industry, and government. You know, these kind of linkages, we call it triple helix linkages. That is, there should be a kind of collaborative relationship between the academia, government, and the industry. The government help in providing support in terms of funding. Then what you do when you get those funding in this ecosystem is to now translate what you are doing in the lab to the common man through the industry. The industry is to help in commercialization. So like I said, between industry, government, and other stakeholders. Importantly, this policy effort is backed by government budgetary support and coordinated funding streams to ensure measurable outcomes and sustained implementation. This marks a significant development, representing the first concerted high-level policy push to mainstream research commercialization in Nigeria. The imperative to commercialize research, however, is not driven by profit alone. It is fundamentally about impact. Research must be economically relevant and responsive to Nigerians in most pressing challenges, including food security, healthcare delivery, renewable energy, transportation, digital governance, and climate resilience. Commercialization ensures that research solutions move beyond the laboratory and reach the markets and communities where they can drive meaningful change. It is also critical for institutional sustainability. Nigerian universities can no longer rely solely on tuition and government grants. Income generated from patents, licensing, consultancy services, and spin-off enterprises can significantly strengthen financial resilience and institutional autonomy. Furthermore, research commercialization plays a vital role in expanding opportunities for the young ones. In a country with a rapidly growing youth population, translating research into enterprises and innovations fuels entrepreneurship and job creation, transforming graduates from job seekers into job creators. At the national level, global competitiveness, increasing demands on whether research is not only produced but applied, sealed, and integrated into economic activity. Commercialization implies the social and economic returns on public investment in research. While national policy provides the necessary structure and direction, universities themselves must take ownership of implementation. This requires deliberate alignment of research strategies with national economic goals, the integration of commercialization into institutional governance frameworks, and the establishment of functional technology transfer offices, incubators, and innovation hubs. It also requires incentive systems that recognize and reward researchers who engage responsibly with industry and demonstrate applied impact. University leadership is therefore critical in championing a culture shift, one in which innovation and impact are recognized as core elements of academic excellence rather than peripheral activities. At the same time, research commercialization cannot succeed in isolation. It demands a collaborative ecosystem involving government, academia, and industry, which I've said before. Government must sustain policy support, incentives, and funding mechanisms that lower the risks associated with innovation. You know, we need money for research, and government is now ready to fund such research, because in our time we do research with our own personal funds, but we have government now that is ready to fund research, like the funding agency like TED Fund do a lot of that now. And if you check now, for the past 1 year, we've had improved activity, especially from the DRID office in that area. Like the IBRO funds that we got recently, we have up to 40 academics that have gotten that intervention, unlike before. So when these actors work together, research outputs are less likely to stagnate, are more likely to emerge as solutions, products, technologies, and services that improve lives and contribute to national prosperity. The federal government's policy initiative is a strong step forward, but its success ultimately depends on collective actions across sectors. Distinguished guests, the moment for transformation is now. Nigeria has the talents, the intellectual capital, and crucially, the emerging policy momentum to rethink how research is harnessed for economic growth. If universities fully embrace commercialization, and if government sustains an enabling environment, and if industry collaborates deeply with academia, Nigeria research will no longer remain invisible to markets. Instead, it will be visible in factories, clinics, farms, startups, and global value chains. So let us therefore act with urgency, purpose, and unity, because when research reaches markets, places, and impacts people's lives, we do more than generate knowledge. We build a stronger, more innovative, and more prosperous Nigeria. Thank you.
A round of applause for Professor Ehishina Omorege, our keynote speaker, who has delivered wonderfully on the economic imperative why Nigerian universities must commercialize research. Well, thank you so much, ma'am, for that impactful keynote address. There will be a panel session, a discussion after this, and then we would dig into some other matters regarding your presentation, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll move straight to the next speaker now. We have a master class. We have two speakers for that master class. The first speaker is Professor Solomon Omoniho. He will be speaking to the subject, Intellectual Property 101, Patents, Trademarks, and Copyright for Researchers Identifying Patentable Innovation in their Research. Distinguished participants will be doing a brief bio on Professor Omoniho, once again by Donatas.
Professor Solomon E. Omonigo is a Nigerian academic in the Department of Microbiology at the University of Benin, specializing in mycology, molecular biology, and biotechnology, focusing on research like food security, preservative treatments, and he also holds the title of Professor of Food and Industrial Biology. He is actively publishing in microbiology and related fields. Let's make welcome once again Mr. Solomon E. Omonigo.
Well, I'm a Mr. before a professor, so she's right. Because you have two Professor Omonigo, so she's very right by saying Mr. so that they will not be misidentified. I'm Professor Solomon Esharegoma Omonigo, who is currently the director of IPTTO. And we are going to talk on, well, I mean, we is the directorate, not me personally. So when I use we, I'm referring to my directorate of intellectual property. And not only that, people know us for only one thing before now, anti-plagiarism. we have another core mandate, which is patenting of your research. Bring your research to us. We advise you on how it can become useful, how it can become a money-yielding, results-oriented project. So we are not just only to anti-plagiarism, we are also into patenting in collaboration with NOTAB and Federal Ministry of Science and Technology. So today I'll be talking on intellectual property 101, patents, trademarks, and copyright for researchers. Identify patentable innovation in your research. So it's not every research you should embark on, especially when you know it's not going to yield something profitable. That's where we are focusing on. And this one, you would require collaboration. The world has moved from single researcher, it's now collaborative. Cannot be talking of organism without talking about the chemistry, the biochemistry, and the environment they are staying. So you can see that okay. Thank you very much. So you can see that automatically we have so many things at stake in research and development. And here we'll be looking at we have an outline there, which is the table of content. We look at the introduction, intellectual properties, which we refer to as IP categories and its division. We look at the overview of intellectual property rights. IPRO means intellectual property right, and the validity period. We as well look at what is the importance of intellectual properties. Then we look at intellectual properties categories and their divisions, as well as what is patentable, which will guide us in our research, and what are the intervention or international convention treaties that are governing research and patenting. As I said, it's not every research that is patentable. So you look at those ones that are patentable and who are members of this international convention, as well as the legal aspect, which I know the directorate is Directorate of Research and Innovation Development is very conversant with. She's our legal advisor, so she knows better in what we should do when you talk about the administration of intellectual properties in Nigeria. And then we look at what is patent. Introduction. Intellectual property, which is IP, which we can define as what you as a person can think out of the box by creating something out of your mind that will be useful in solving some problem in your community, and the community in this case is Nigeria as a whole. So any innovation you are doing should be based on your own intellectual ability. That's why we are specifying or stressing the intellectual property. Not copying somebody's intellectual property, modifying it, and claiming it to be your own. So intellectual property is what is originally your own that you invented. It could be computer programs, it could be as well as trademark, as well as invention that will produce something that will be necessary or useful. We drive cars. That's intellectual property of somebody who has come together to see how engine can drive wheels, which we are now using. It's an intellectual property. Then we also talk about product of human endeavors. When we go to hospital, they give us some drugs. Without marketing some, we know the cost value of augmentin in Nigeria for now. So if we can produce a drug, Faculty of Pharmacy in particular, can come up with a drug that can match augmentin, that can be sold worldwide, you know how much the Nigerian economy will improve with that one. So these are some of the things we need to. So it's not only those physical ones. We talk about publications as well, and we talk about design, drama for those theater artists. These are their own innovation. They wrote the film, they acted it, so it's their intellectual property. And when you talk about books, they are part of your intellectual property that should be patented, and you get royalty for what you have worked for. Then, what is intellectual property right? Here is simple. Intellectual property right is your right to an intellectual development or innovation. So when you patent your research or your invention, you have the right to it. You determine who should use it and who should not use it. But not everything is patentable. We'll look at those ones later on. There are national, regional, and international conventions or institutions responsible for patenting. We have national, for instance, that Nigeria region could be West Africa or Africa, then the world as a whole, which are responsible for patenting. And the specific goal of this one is found in section, okay, in Nigeria we have a CAP for patenting that is run or organized by National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP, which I've mentioned earlier. They are the ones guiding or regulating the registration of patent. And their major function includes the use of trademarks as well as the right to use patent inventions. And in that case, they are the one who guides and directs, as I said earlier, in the patenting business. Then here we have an overview of intellectual property rights, their validity period, and where they are used. The three major terms that we can use here is copyright. Copyright is mainly for book, literatures, and the rest, which have a validity period of about 70 years. That is, if you publish a book today, until the next 70 years, you have sole right to that book. Nobody can copy it or use it without your permission. After 70 years, it will expire. Then we have the trademark. Patent. Let's look at patent first, which is the major one. All of them are the same thing, depend on the usage. Patents are mainly for innovation or invention carried out by researchers, especially in the science area. What I mean science area, every science from microbiology to medicine, from agriculture to engineering, from pharmacy to the technologies. These are inventions. So any research you are carrying out in this area, you have the right to apply for patent for it. And after going through the process, if NOTAP gives you the patent, fine and good, you have the certificate, which you can brand anywhere. But there are some things that cannot be patented. We'll look at those ones later. Then we talk about the trademark. When you talk about a trademark, it's a sign, it's a drawing, or a name. Uniben is known as Uniben. It's our trademark. No institution in the world can use Uniben as their acronym. And one thing with patent and rights or copyright is that they are regional, not international, so that we will not misquote us. Because we have a University of Benin in Republic of Benin. And the only difference is that in most cases, it is registered with only one language. While University of Benin is University of Benin, the one in Republic of Benin is Université du Benin. The translation of University of Benin is French. So when you talk about University of Benin to a Frenchman, you will look at the one in Republic of Benin. When you say University of Benin to an Englishman, he knows it's University of Benin, Benin City. So these are trademarks that are known. There were cases of people trying to copy other people's name or trademark. We had the experience when some schools wanted to copy our own UDSS. And the court told them, don't go. Because if you do, they will sue you and the liability will close down your school. So they have the option that to change their acronym or their symbol from UDSS. Then we have industrial design, textiles. When you wear a cloth, in most cases you don't bother. Those labels, stickers that are there, they are their trademark. And they are patented. That's why the Akara from Lagos cannot be produced by the Aba person. Aba have their own trademark. Accra in Lagos have their own trademark. You don't look at them because you don't know. When you see some numbers on the cloth, they are not just number, they are patent number, which guarantee that product, and nobody can copy that design anywhere in the world. Then there are cases where they are of geographical distribution. The Benin Wall, that's a geographical distribution, only known for Benin City. You have the Kano City Wall. That's why they are the only two cities in Nigeria because they have war. So that geographical location has patented them directly to the people who are in that region. The China Wall, all those ones are patented geographical landmark. Then why do we, or why is international intellectual properties important? What we should look at, as I said, in intellectual properties, when you are registered, you have a patent. It's an avenue or a way to wealth, as Prof just said earlier. And I use the example of a drug. If pharmacy can produce a drug that can measure up with some international antibiotics, Uniben will be transformed. It's just only 5%. You know, some of these patents could go into billions of dollars. Take, for instance, during the coronavirus, how much was spent in buying the vaccine produced by just one or two companies in the world. Imagine the whole world buying coronavirus as a vaccine as at that time. The money generated to those companies. If you have such an invention in Uniben, VC will go to sleep. It will not bother about Minister of Education sending subvention or not, because the revenue will be generating from such invention will be high. So it will lead to economic growth, as well as ensure that research funds are generated. So there are several other reasons or importance for IPI. Then, why are we interested in intellectual properties? Because, as I said, intellectual property involves you using your brain to think out of the box. It's not stereotype. Now you have a problem facing Nigeria. You look at what can be done to solve that problem. You have the problem of drought facing the north. What can be done to suppress or to alleviate the problem of drought in the north? These are innovations that we can look at. So we think out of it. All of us are using computer, using this. This is an invention of somebody, either Bill Gates or the rest. And we pay to use them. For software that you are using, you pay. Even the MTN that you are using their data, you pay them. Because the money is so small, you will not value it as such. But by the time you go worldwide, Google search, the money they generate every day is enough to make Uniben smile. So these are thinking, when you think out of the box, to solve a problem, it becomes your intellectual property. Intellectual properties categories are in two major categories, which is the intellectual properties, IP, as well as copyright and trademark or related alliance. In the patent or the intellectual property, we talk about patent, we talk about trademarks, we talk about industrial design, as well as the geographical location, as I've mentioned earlier on. Then for the copyright, I said copyright and patent is the usage that is the difference. If not, they mean the same thing based on the work. Copyright are mainly for those in the arts. Where you talk about theater, talk about movies, talk about films. These are properties of somebody. And in most cases, when you watch a film to the end, you see copyrighted to so person. He is the sole owner of that work. And nobody else can go and produce that film without taking permission from such a person. We have database. All of us know that Uniben has moved from one database to another one. So the database is owned by somebody. So if you can design a program that can be used by others, you pay. And that one will bring money or royalty to whoever developed it. Then we talk about digitalized materials, especially in the computer science and engineering, where the world has moved from physical to digital. So you need all these things. Then the music software, we know some people have beats. Once you press your piano or any of these things, the beat will come up. These are work done by some people, which are copyrighted because they are the owner. So if you want to use them, you must pay royalty to them. Then what are the international convention or treaties on IP, intellectual properties? There are 3 or 4 major patent design. We have the UCC, which is the Universal Convention on Copyright. As I said, copyright in most cases is for the arts. Then you have the Paris Convention for Intellectual Properties, which was established since 1963. You have the Berne Convention for Literary Arts, and you have the Patent cooperation treaty. This patent cooperation treaty is very key in patenting. So we'll be coming back to it very now and often. Sorry. Let's look at the membership of this international convention. We have what we call WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, which has a convention since 1995. We have the World Trade Organization. We all know World Trade Organization because of Okoje Iweala, who is a member or the president of that organization. So these are some of the governing bodies controlling patents, and we have patent law, as I said, which the expert DRID director is an expert in that area. So when you talk about legal and institutional governing patenting, we have institutional framework. They don't work outside of a guideline, which is established in most cases internationally. And in Nigeria, the administration is by NOTAB, as I said earlier on, that was established by a law in Nigeria. You also have the Nigeria Copyright Commission, NCC, which is the Prime Minister of Justice, as well as I said, National Office for Technological Acquisition and Promotion. That's NOTAB. These are governing bodies in Nigeria that regulates the registration of patent or copyright. Then what is patent? According to the World Intellectual Property Organization, a patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention, which is a product or a process that provides in general, not restricted, a new way of doing things or doing products. And this one means that it's not only physically what you see. A process. If we can develop a process where school administration will be seamless and is given or accepted all over, is a process that can be registered as a patent. And to get a patent, technical information about the invention must be disclosed. Why some products cannot be patented is because their production or processing are mystery. Most of the herbal drugs in Nigeria, for instance, they have some mystic or mystery behind them. That's why you cannot patent them. Take, for instance, that if you break your leg, the native doctor in healing you or curing you or whatever, we go and break a fowl's leg, so that as the fowl leg is healing, your own will heal. And if the fowl leg refuses to heal, your own will not heal. Is that not mystery? So those ones cannot be patented. So that we know those that can be. But if you can bring a drug, a medicine, that can cure fever, malaria fever, and it's established, you can patent that one. But the other one, which is a more complex one with some underlying mystic values, cannot be patented, so that we know that not everything, as I said, can be patented. Patents are territorial. What we mean territorial, Nigeria, NOTAB, they are in charge of patenting. You can produce the same thing in Nigeria that is registered in Nigeria, patented in Nigeria. A Ghanaian may produce the same thing that is patented in Ghana. The difference is that the Ghanaian own cannot be imported into Nigeria because you have the exclusive rights. Why your own cannot be exported to Ghana? Because they have the exclusive rights. Take, for instance, some of the major car industries in the world. Toyota, for instance. They have different factories and design in different countries. Toyota from Europe is different from Toyota from America. It's different from Toyota in Japan, because they have their own specification to their own region. So if it's American spec, you say this American spec. So when you are taking it out, it must be so branded. If it's a Japanese one, it must also be branded, depending on who is producing it. So it's territorial, not worldwide. But the only difference is that once it's registered, there's an international body that's controlling all. So if you want to go and work on somebody's already patented, they will advise you, for the sake of peace, look elsewhere. This product has been patented in Nigeria. So there's no need you pursuing it in Ghana, because it will bring to the diplomatic roar that nobody who wants peace in the world will want to engage himself or herself in. So they have a region of protection. Then, what are patentable inventions? I think that's why we are all here. We want to know those things that are patentable, that we can work on and get value for our research. Some characteristics of exploitation IP that result in patentable invention include, and not restricted, they must be novel, new, not what people have worked on before. So whatever you are thinking of doing must be new and must be original to you, or novelty must be new to you, the society. Must lead to a product or service that is useful to the society. So there are some innovations that are detrimental to the society. Nobody will patent them. And they must have the potential for commercialization, thus generating or creating economic activity. They must have to be disclosed, or they must not have been disclosed by somebody else already. So that means you are not copying somebody's work. Innovation steps are not oblivious. That's what I talk about in the mystic lesson. Every step must be open, at least for people to see that this is this. A plus B equals to AB. Abi? Is that what mathematics told us? No. It's A times B that is AB. I think I'm right. So these are the steps that must be taken to make sure that the products you are coming to patent are ready for patenting. So if you bring a method, it's going to be scrutinized, as we see later, so that it's not everything. You want to patent water, we get to that place. You can't patent water because it's a natural product. Then we talk about industrial application. What you are producing now, or what you are trying to patent, does it have industrial value? Remember, we are going to commercialize this patent. Before now, Nigeria was known for rubber production. Am I right? Because all the tires in the world were produced from rubber. But because of innovation and research, they no longer use latex as that, except for those special products that require the use of latex. You now have polymers, which the chemists have helped in pushing us the biologists from the market. They can now synthesize rubber. That's why nobody is interested in Rubber Research Institute, EYAMO, because they have new ways of doing it. And any product you are going to patent must not have nuisance value or be against the public morale. For instance, you want to go and patent a gene for the creation of babies, artificial babies, nobody will approve it. So it's a research of no-go area. So only area that you know will produce something useful to the society, that's where you should research on. So for those areas that you know this thing cannot work, you want to go and patent a game that will encourage hooliganism, nobody will patent it for you because it's a nuisance to the society. The next question now is, who grants patents? A patent, as I said, is a form of intellectual property which consists of a set of or a set of rights, or what is granted by a sovereign state. State, not whole world. So the state is the one who has the power. Nigeria is the one who has the power to grant you research patent, and not the world. All they do is that others will come and learn or apply for the use of what you have patented in Nigeria. So it's a sovereign entity, and it should not be something that will go against the right of the people. So right to exclude other materials from making use, other people from making use of or offering them, is not there. You are not granted the right that nobody can use it. Any person can use it, but with your permission. I hope you are following this place. That you have a patent certificate does not mean nobody can use that product or cannot utilize or make use of part of it. The only thing is that whoever wants to use it must take permission from you. And in most cases, those commission, you will pay. Like if you want to produce something, going back to Augmentin again. Augmentin, which is a major brand of antibiotics, you have the non-branded ones. The Augmentin as well, but not the original Augmentin. So Augmentin has given them power to copyright or to produce them. But in most cases, they will not disclose the detailed composition to you. That's why those ones don't work like Augmentin, because it's not all the detail of how it was produced that are disclosed. Some is your trade secret. Coca-Cola cannot be Pepsi. Pepsi cannot be Coca-Cola. Even those two of them are Coke. Am I right? Because they have their own what we call trade secrets, which will not be divulged to the public. So you have the right to your patent, but does not include excluding others from using it, so that every person will be able to utilize what you have produced. So who grants the patent? We said it's a sovereign state. It could be a regional patent office like West Africa or Africa, and the World Intellectual Property Office worldwide. Their own is actually to coordinate the different regional patents that are there. And the role of WHO, which culminates in what we call Patent Cooperative Treaty, is that there will be no conflict of interest in your research and that one of the other countries. So there should be a separation from others. And the role of WIPO in Patent Cooperative Treaty is that they have a single filing of your patent. So if you applied in Nigeria and you are given that number, nobody can use that number again. As I said, they will advise whoever wants to copy that thing that this thing has been patented in Nigeria, so don't go there for peace to reign in the world. PCT also helps to protect or help patent office in the different regions with patent granting decision. Like Nigeria may decide to grant patent to an inventor, but by the time WIPO look at it and see that this patent will not be to the interest of the world, they will advise you not to. Take for instance, nuclear warheads. Any person can produce, but you'll be advised that if you give it to some rascals, Boko Haram, the first target will be all of us here. Am I right? So in such cases, the international community will advise, not they are going to tell you not to, but they will advise you on the implication that if you do this, it may not end up in Nigeria, Boko Haram. It will go across West Africa. Okay. It will go across West Africa as well as to other parts of the world. So in such a case, please don't go there. So in the role of the grant, we have several of the roles listed out in my preparation. Then the role of the PPO, I said they are numerous. But the important thing is that it has an international publication as soon as possible after the expiration of 18 months. That means if you start the process today, you are sure of getting your patent in the next 18 months. Remember that this patenting will involve rigorous screening and research to check the whole world to make sure that nobody has done something that is similar to that one. And it is in most cases supplementary research. That is, if you say the one in Nigeria is not there, you are good. You search the one in Ghana, search the one in Africa, search the one in the world. If there's nothing that is similar or related to your own, you are good as a go. But if you have any similarity, that's where they will say we are anti-plagiarism. Well, we advise you are plagiarizing somebody's work. So don't go there. What is the function of a patent, or the functions of patent? Patent has two major important functions. A disclosure, which you have to do to make sure that what you are patenting is disclosed, so that every person will see what you are doing. As I said, it should not be shrouded in secrecy, so it must be open to every person. And it should have what we call a protection. Once you file for patenting, that is, myself, a microbiology, file for the patenting of a microorganism that's well identified. Tomorrow, a biochemist will not wake up and say, what's to file for that one? Because once I've been given the number, whether it has been completed or not, it's already reserved for me. So until the process has been completed and is found not usable, not useful, it is then you can now file for another one. So once you have filed your application for a patenting, nobody will be granted that permission to file another patent right. So you are protected. And as I said, the protection is that you are the only one who will give the right for the usage, not that you are the only one who will use it. So that we will not get it wrong that because you have applied for patenting or you've patented a product, nobody else in the world can use it. No. If it was like that, other countries wouldn't have been able to produce cars or vehicles for movement. Then information in a patent document includes, and not restricted, we have over 110 million patent documents. So you can imagine the large number. And for you to cipher through all those documents, to be able to know that this one has not been patented is a long, rigorous exercise. That's why the process is not always very easy. That's why people say they are delaying. It's not delaying because they have to check through every patent document to make sure that what you are patenting does not exist anywhere in the world. And technical information about the description must be drawn or shown so that nobody will say my own car has 5 legs while your own has 4 legs. So because of that one, they are not cars. Cars are cars. It depends on the mobility they are performing. And it should be business-related information as well as public policy relevant information. As I said, it's not everything that you have the ability of patenting. If it's going to be a nuisance to the society, nobody will approve such a patent for you. So it must be something that is patentable. And the patent disclosure is that everything about it, whether a mechanical device, a process, or a method, whether it's a genetic information or a genetic organism, everything about it must be disclosed. And I said there are some restrictions. This is where the other scientists will not be happy with us, especially my friend from animal and environmental biology, biochemistry, plant and the only natural organisms that are allowed to be patented are microorganisms. I think microbiologists will clap for that one. So any other organism, whether a cow, a chicken, a ram, you don't have the right to patent it. But any microorganism that is of use to the society can be patented. So that's the difference. Any living organism or natural thing cannot be patented. You cannot patent sunlight. You cannot patent water because these are natural phenomena or processes. So exception to patenting is what I've said. There are some that cannot be patented, especially those ones of animal and plant origin. But their products can be patented. That's why you have herbal drugs that are being patented. That one is not the whole plant you are patenting. You were able to extract a component from the plant which you are patenting. So you must make sure that what you are working on falls within the guideline of patenting. Then, what are the procedures involved in patenting? As I said, it's a rigorous process. And what I mean rigorous process is, it is not as easy as we may be looking at it. It involves three major processes. The first one is what we call the pre-application documentation stage, where you fill the form, you do everything necessary and submit. The second stage is when NOTAB will do a validation on it. So if you carried out a research, you've explained it, fine. NOTAB may decide to contract it out to another independent researcher. That this product you said is this is how you said you did it. Can you verify whether this process is reproducible? Why the one of the native doctor and bone healing is not patented? Because it cannot be reproduced. It's only the native doctor that can do it. No other doctor who is not an expert in that area that can perform such magic. That's why it's not patented. So those are the pre-application listing. So we now apply and submit. When you've done that one, they will go through the verification exercise and see whether what you are patenting is genuine or not. Remember, I said earlier that anything you are doing must be original, must be from you. Novelty is the key word in patenting. So if you know what you are trying to submit is not your original work, don't bother yourself, because at the end it will be dropped. So if you are applying, be sure that it's your work, not somebody else's work. If it's a collaborative work, accepted. All the authors or contributors must be listed in such a patenting document. Then when I said it will be evaluated, which is a process by NOTAB, and I told you that in most cases they have a way of verifying some of the information you are filing there to make sure that it's not peculiar to another person, that nobody else has done that one. And at the end, when all the procedures have been verified and accepted, you will pay. I know this is where we don't want to hear. So patent is not free. It's just a mega sum of 3.7 to 4.5 thousand US dollars. You see why you need the University of Benin to be involved? Because you as a researcher, we find it difficult to cover such money. But you should also note that when we say, come, let's do it for you, our contribution into that patent will be, at the end of the exercise, there will be a royalty that will be paid. University of Benin cannot spend $4.5 thousand to patent a document for you. And when the royalty will come, you pocket everything into your pocket. That's an aberration. So we have a policy framework, which is the Uniben intellectual policy guideline, where 30% will go to you. You take the bulk of the work, royalty actually, about 90%. It's just only 10% Uniben is asking for. So it's not too bad for the money they invested in that patenting. So all these I've mentioned are doable. They are practicable. But the guideline or the bottom line is that research should be collaborative, so that at the end, it will not be you and you alone. Because if it's you and you alone, you won't know what the other person is doing. But by the time you collaborate with one person or another one, it's going to be broad. The challenges I'm having in microbiology could be solved by those in biochemistry. So there's the need for collaboration. The equipment we want to use could be fabricated by engineering. So we need to incorporate an engineer. And the users, in most cases, a drug, for instance, that means we require a pharmacist or a medical personnel to be involved, so that we will not just produce a drug that will end up in the laboratory, because it has to be tried, and they are the ones who will do the trial for us. So our own is to formulate, pharmacy will develop, while medical personnel will do the trial to make sure that the drug produced is of a patentable value, not just any drug. So we have some websites where you can Google what you want, or where you can search for what you want in the patenting business. And those websites, that's the payment I mentioned about, filing. Okay. So we have websites where you can search to make sure that what you are doing is not what people have done already. And we have about 180 patent offices in the world. And they all work together in the WIPO to make sure that information you are generating or using are not in variance with what is accepted. We have three major international patenting office or acts: the one of the North American, the one of the European Union, and the one of Japan, which covers for the Asia countries. Nigeria will key into any of these three depending on which product we are producing. If it's automobile, for instance, I think we'll key into the one of Japan. If it's the one of drugs, the one in Europe will be better. While for food, the one of America will be better. So each of them have their own, what I will refer to, core mandates in what they are doing. Even though all of them can do it, but you cannot do it all the same way. So my advice to the community, that's Uniben community, to the researcher, visit us in our office. Don't just send your paper for us to run anti-plagiarism. Come and visit us. Let's look at what you are doing, whether it's patentable or not. And if it's patentable, we can help you in facilitating the patenting process. That's our major mandate. Anti-plagiarism is actually a secondary one, which we want to be sure that nobody is copying another person's work. And when you visit us, you get all the relevant information you need in your research. So on that note, I want to thank every person, especially to my Director of Research, Innovation and Development, Professor Mrs. Unoigwe. Thank you very much for giving us this platform to tell the community that we are not just only anti-plagiarism, but we are also into patent registration. Thank you.
Round of applause again for Professor Solomon Omoniho. Omoniho. The first speaker for the masterclass, Intellectual Property 101, Patents, Trademarks, and Copyright for Researchers Identifying Patentable Innovations in Their Research. We'll move quickly to the next speaker for the second masterclass. You all agree with me that we are right on time. So just like we promised you earlier, we are going to make up for the lost time. So we are within time. The next speaker is Professor Nelson Ojukwu-Ogba. He will be speaking to the subject, Commercialization Pathways from Patent to Profit, Understanding Commercialization Model. Once again, donors will be doing the citation for Professor Nelson Ojukwu-Ogba. Please appreciate donors for me, please. She's doing well. I appreciate her. Thank you.
Professor Nelson Ojukwu-Ogba holds the degree of Bachelor's of Law at the University of Benin, Master of Laws at AAU, and PhD, Uniben, Postdoctoral Fellow, University of Fort Hare, East London, South Africa. He has been teaching law at Uniben since 2005. He also taught at the University of Fort Hare, South Africa, from December 2016 to December 2018. He was the Dean of Postgraduate School at Admiralty University of Nigeria from 2024 to 2025, and briefly, the Dean of Law at the same school while on sabbatical leave. He was the head of Department of Business Law, later the Department of Commercial and Industrial Law of Uniben from July 2021 to June 2024. He is the head of Department of Public Law at Admiralty University of Nigeria from July 2024 to June 2025. He is currently the Director of Directorate of Public and Private Partnerships, Vice Chancellor's Office, Uniben. Once again, let's make welcome Professor Nelson Ojukwu Ogba.
Good morning, everybody. I stand on existing protocol. The job has been made easy for me by the earlier introduction when Professor Murege with our truth on what we're doing. Thank you. And then the last presenter also helped me do part of the work. What I'm simply talking about is how you translate the work in the laboratory or in the workshop or in the library that you have reduced either into writing or into a program or into a process. How do you now translate it into profit? And that is why we are looking at the commercialization models of patents. Yes, we are discussing intellectual property as a whole, but we'll be narrowing it down to patents for obvious reasons. Patent is the largest earner for universities and public research institutions. Even for private institutions, patent remains the most veritable source of income for them. One of the richest universities in the world, Harvard University, holds, as at 1st July 2024, holds 5,800 patents. So you can imagine where Uniben has 2,000 patents, so that manufacturers and industrialists, thank you, when they want to produce, they have to get license from Uniben. So you can imagine the capital outlay it will generate for University of Benin. Okay, so we'll start from, if we look at the abstract, we looked at intellectual property that is the major driver of innovation, because the things you express either as a process or a program or an invention is simply targeted towards making money. That's just the truth. So it is a major driver of innovation, technological development, and industrial advancement. That is the difference between the first world, the second world, and the developing world. Their capacity for development of patents or innovations that are capable of being commercialized. So you can imagine during the pandemic, if, for example, University of Benin held 1 or 2 patents for drugs that will be used to treat COVID-19, you will agree with me that pharmaceutical institutions from all over the world will be queuing up to obtain the license and approval from University of Benin. And that will also mean millions of dollars coming into the University of Benin. Okay, so like we said, patent, one of the major classes of IP, protects innovations and inventions. It's a process of protecting what you have discovered or what you have invented so that nobody will copy it without your license or authorization. Now, the fundamental influence of patent is becoming all the more apparent because of what we have said or what we have been saying, underscored by the role of the concept as the driver of innovative, creative, and inventive processes, products, and services that drive economic development. Now, patent is simply a license granted by the government for you to make use of your invention or your innovation or your process to the exclusion of any other person. No other person can use it except you, except you license the person to make use of it. Now, all are geared towards commercial production And of course, that's one of the yardstick, one of the fundamental threshold for patent. For any invention or innovation to be patentable, it must be capable of industrial application. That is capable of being commercialized. Otherwise, it cannot qualify. Now, the paper will examine the role of patent as the process of transiting from innovations or processes to patents, and then to commercialization of that patent or that innovation that you have discovered. Now, it will look at, you also examine the models of ownership of patent, the interface of Tan and Gan, of course, the investors interfacing with the industry to commercialize the developments or the innovations or inventions. Now, we'll also look at the University of Benin's intellectual property policy, because there's a document called the University of Benin Intellectual Property Policy. Now, unfortunately, I don't think many people know. Many people don't, because many, yes, I know, because in my interaction in an earlier presentation I made in 2022, many people didn't know about this University of Benin IP policy. It is a document that clearly defines the relationship between researchers and the university, and how these innovations or inventions could be commercialized through patenting. And when the returns start coming in, the ratio of sharing. It will, well, at the end of the day, we will make suggestions that could help the IPTT office and the University of Benin to improve on the IGR to the university and to researchers. Because when researchers are motivated, they will be spurred to research more. Now, we have said the IP is the principal tool in the pursuit of an effective and success-driven global economy, and which is happening. That is why the United States and the United Kingdom, in fact, Western Europe, appear to be more developed or appear to be more resourceful in their industrialization. Now, the policies of formulators and managers of economies are looking up to alternative solutions, especially artificial intelligence in tackling economic downturn, occasioned by, of course, environmental and energy challenges, including climate change. All these are challenges that are coming up, and researchers are expected to tackle, find solutions to. Then the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath, which I have discussed, which I have mentioned earlier. Of course, the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic is still here with us now. People in the medical field will agree with me that the research that was done then are still relevant. Then the dwindling revenue source, the paucity of financial resources to fund public institutions, especially tertiary institutions and PRIs, that's public research institutions, because the money is no longer flowing the way it should be. The governments are no longer funding the universities and research institutes the way they were doing it in the 70s or 80s. So these institutions will have to look back and put on their thinking caps to develop an IGR source that will be sustainable. So research breakthroughs by universities and public institutions have become a major source of solution to the developmental challenges, which I have said, through enhanced revenue, of course. Then dwindling funding sources for the state is also an incentive for universities and PRIs to explore ways to, of course, shore up their revenue source. Now, partnering with organized private sector is a major funding alternative through the patenting of outcomes of research. When people spend hours or days or weeks or years in the laboratory, when there are breakthroughs in research, they are called inventions or processes or innovations. Now, when this is done, you can sit in the laboratory for the next 5 or 10 years without being commercialized. But when you commercialize it, it will start yielding the expected results. Now, okay, partnering with organized private sector is a major funding alternative, like we said, that feeds on the research outputs of universities and PRIs for efficient commercialization. Now, this paper, we have said, will discuss the transiting of patents into profits through commercialization. Now we look at how the ownership of patents, how are they, intellectual property, how are they owned? We say there are basically two major classes of ownership of intellectual property rights, with particular reference to patents. Although all we are doing will be tailored towards patents, but we just want to, because the intellectual property rights are interrelated. Copyrights, trademarks, patents, and industrial designs are all interrelated. That is why the global regulator is one, the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, which is based in Geneva. So we are looking at the types of ownership. The first one, which, as we will see, has become obsolete, is the professor's privilege. That was prevalent all over the world in the 60s up to early 70s. Now, under the professor's privilege, professors and faculty members own the IP rights over their work of authorship, invention, and innovation, which means whether it is copyright or patent or trademark or industrial design rights is owned by the author or the inventor or the creator. In fact, for the purpose of clarity, when we are discussing copyright, we talk of authors. When we are discussing patents, we talk of the inventors. When we are talking of industrial design, we talk of the creators, so that we understand this discussion more. Now, the IP rights owners decide whether or not to register the invention. That's under the professor's privilege. Then they also decide whether or not to share with his or her employer. Now, where the employer substantially funded the research, of course, is happening in public universities, then it may share in the accrued benefits of the patent. Now, most jurisdictions have jettisoned the professor's privilege approach, like I said. Up to the 70s, it was prevalent, but beginning with, from the early 80s, jurisdictions started gravitating towards the other alternative we'll look at. Now, the system still prevails in Italy and Sweden, but largely circumvented by institutional policymakers, so that where even you are relying on the professor's privilege approach, the investor can, through contract, take care of his own interests. Okay, so like we noted in the passing, unfortunately, the University of Benin IP policy largely is influenced by the professor's privilege approach. Of course, this has been jettisoned by most jurisdictions. It's understandable. This document must have been drawn up in the early 70s when the university was established, but has not been subjected to review. And that is what we recommend as we progress. Now, apart from the professor's privilege, the next one of the two is the institutional ownership. The institutional ownership expects to cure the inequity in the professor's privilege approach. It occurs more with sound reasoning and equity. If somebody has suffered to produce, perfect an invention or innovation or a process, yes, that person should receive returns on it. Is it not so? A researcher should be, a laborer is what his wage, is it not? No, but however, if we look at it from the angle of the person who is funding it, it is said that who pays the piper, they takes the tune. Is it not so? So if the university is funding research 100%, the university should take benefit from it too. So that is where this our institutional ownership approach comes in. Now, patent rights are owned by the employer under this, the University of Public Research Institutes, where the research is publicly funded and done in the course of employment. Remember, if it is done in the course of employment, the law will recognize the owner. Because if you are employed to do research, your work is to do research from January to December for the next 35 years or more than that. If you do not produce anything, the university will not sack you. Is it not so? But if you are exceptional and you produce something, the university should take benefit from it. because it's been paying you even when you didn't produce. So if we go by the professor's privilege, you see that the purpose is defeated. That is why the institutional ownership is more preferable. Now, this has been recognized under Nigerian law. The regulator of patents is the Register of Patents in Nigeria, and he works under the law regulating patents in Nigeria, which is the Patents and Designs Act of 1988 as amended. Now, that is where the invention was made in the course of employment. What of the other aspects, the other side of the coin, where a researcher has invented a process and it was not within the course of his employment? Maybe you are a lawyer, right? And you have invented a process for producing an equipment that can dictate fake drugs. You know, it's possible. It could be that you have an ancillary knowledge of it. Either your brother or your father or your mother or your wife or your husband is researching into that area. You also have now grounded yourself in it, and you decided to do something. As we will see in the case that we have there, the McCarthy and Vodacom. Now, under such situation, the law doesn't say it will belong to you. The law says it will belong to the employer, but the employer must remunerate you, taking into consideration two aspects, two fundamental factors: that the importance of that the invention, the importance, and the level of your salary. As we will see in this McCarthy case, it was. There's nobody here that can say that he or she didn't use "Please Call Me Back" app. We've all used that, right? In the past. Please call me back up. That's the case that the case came from the Call Me Back app. This man, Kenneth McCarthy, was working with Vodacom. Vodacom is the biggest telecommunications company in South Africa, even bigger than MTN. So he was working in the headquarters, and he was an accounting executive. He was an accounting executive, which is not related to the sciences, is it not? But when he was posted from Cape Town headquarters of the company to the city of Durban, which is about 12 to 13 hours drive, and he was just starting life. He had a girlfriend who was preparing to marry. So when they got separated by distance, he was finding it difficult communicating, and then whenever the lady would want to call him and she doesn't have airtime, there will be a problem. So along the line, because he had an enabling environment created by Vodacom, his employer, but he was not employed in the technical aspect of the work. But because he had the enabling environment, he discovered, or he invented the app, Please Call Me Back. So, and he shared it with his girlfriend, and they were using it. Along the line, he approached his technical director to say, look, I've discovered this, and I think it could be helpful. And the man agreed with him, a white guy. So they took it to the board of the Vodacom, and the board idea and said, okay, fine, it's good. We'll pay you a percentage of the profit that we make from it. They were even skeptical at that point. They didn't know that the thing would be a global success. Now, a few months down the line, they perfected the app, introduced it to Vodacom users. Other telecom companies now started pressurizing them to also sell it to them. And of course, you can sell because they have already registered the patent. So they sold to them, to MTN, to Cell C. And of course, MTN was operating, of course, in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Tanzania, and the Southern African countries. Now, within 6 months, the profit on that Call Me Back app went up to as high as 500 million rands. Now the company started being funny. They didn't want to pay again. Because, remember, maybe they thought it's something that can generate maybe 5 million rand or 2 million rand. But within 6 months, it generated 500 million. And they were thinking of how they would pay 20% of 500 million to this young man who wasn't even a very senior executive. So, along the line, the young man sued them. the High Court, the young man won. On appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal, the company won. But he escalated it to the Constitutional Court, which is the South African Supreme Court. That's the law report there. South African Constitutional Court, which held that by law, an employee who is able to invent a process, and that invention is patented, is entitled to remuneration if it was not in the course of his employment, that he was rightly entitled to the payment. So why I'm sharing this case, because all of us will want to develop something that good, right? And it will be nice if we make effort, do the research, develop it. The law will protect you so that the university will not shortchange you. Of course, the university system in Nigeria here will not shortchange you because we are all brothers and sisters. No, why I'm saying it is because in South Africa, where this happened, remember the economy is still held by another set of persons, the whites, right? And this McCarthy is a black man. So that dichotomy is still there. But in Nigeria, if you develop and invent anything, and of course, you take it through the university and they perfect it and patent it. Of course, you'll be remunerated adequately. That is why we have to put in more effort. Okay, so institutional ownership is very popular, presently practiced in Nigeria and so many other countries, South Africa, Kenya, United States of America, the UK, China, Germany, Japan, Brazil, and all that. I deliberately listed the African countries first for us to appreciate that it is our own, right? So it is doable in Nigeria. Now, institutional ownership comes in two variants, namely the preemption rights of ownership and the automatic ownership. Now, under the preemptive right of ownership, the approach is a toned-down version of that professor's privilege approach. Patent rights may be owned by the researcher, but subject to the right of the employer to claim the invention if the employer made any input by way of financial support. Of course, the employer will be entitled to a share of it. Now, where the employer owns the invention, it must pay remuneration to the employee, researcher, as inventor, taking note of the position as statutory inventor or true inventor. That's what the law P&D section 2:1-4 has provided. Now, let me explain this statutory inventor and true inventor. The law recognizes the person who files the application for patenting, right? If you have made an invention, it's not protected until you patent it. Now, the patent is you go through the process of application, you file the form, you fill the forms, so back it up with supporting documents, and when it is taken to the registry of patents and it goes through the process of assessment, of course, this, like Professor Monigo said earlier, when you are filing, it will be subjected to assessment whether it has been patented somewhere else. Now, part of the requirement is that the Registrar of Patents will publish the application in 2 national newspapers. When it is published, it will state your name, the patent you are working on. Then it will state the claim. Claim is the protection you are asking for. And of course, the publication will be sitting there at the office and in the newspapers for 28 days. If there is no opposition to it, of course, it will be patented. The certificate of patent will be issued. And one thing we should also note, like he said, for copyright, you don't need any registration to be protected. When you write a book, as far as you have the author page, where you have a C enclosed in a circle, your name, and the year of publication, that is the protection you need under copyright. There's no registration regime. But for patent, trademarks, and industrial designs, you need to file for registration. And when you are given the certificate of registration, which is represented by the patent in this case, of course, you enjoy the protection and enjoy the money that comes with it to the exclusion of any other person. Now, okay, so the university can then apply for registration after taking it. So the statutory inventor is the person who is applying, whereas the person who actually made the invention is the true inventor, right? The law recognizes the statutory inventor as the person, who owns it, because he's the one that is filing the application. But the law also requires the university, or as the case may be, the PRI, to indicate that there's a true inventor, disclose the name and particulars of that true inventor. As we will see later, where any officer fails to do that, maybe because he or she wants to exclude the true inventor from the pie, the law would deem that all processes, including the benefits coming from it, will belong to the true inventor, as a way of punishing the dubious statutory inventor. Now, for the automatic ownership, the employer is automatically recognized as the first owner. That's what I've said. Now, in this case, the law recognizes the employer as the statutory inventor. The researcher is acknowledged as a true inventor. The true inventor must be remunerated, taking into consideration two factors I mentioned earlier, the salary level and the importance of the invention. Now, the Nigerian regime of regulation of IP rights largely adopts the automatic ownership approach. This is what is the extant rule in Nigeria. But as we will see, the Uniben IP policy needs to be fine-tuned to bring it in tandem or in tune with what is the law in Nigeria. So, ownership, okay, I have stated the sections of the law. For somebody or anybody who might want to look at what the law says, the sections are there. Now, for copyright, the preemption right approach is the one that is applicable. That is why you write the book, unless the university commissioned you to write a book. If it was not commissioned, then the copyright in the book belongs to you. But remember what we have been saying. We are concerned with the patent, how to commercialize patent into profitable processes. Now, in all situations, it's most advisable that the employer ensures that the rights of parties are comprehensively captured in a contract document to avoid, sir, the director of IPTTO, so you will take note, always capture it in the contract document so that all rights of the parties will be clearly stated. So that when the money starts rolling in millions or billions, nobody will start feeling that he's been cheated out of it. Yes, okay, I will address the areas I'm talking about. So, I say in Nigeria, IP is regulated in terms of three statutes, which Prof mentioned earlier: copyright for books, cinematograph films, for musical works, and all that. Then trademark for trademark, then patent and industrial designs. And the Patent and Designs Act is the one that we are concerned about. Now, the Patent and Designs Act, as I mentioned, is the main statute regulating matters of patents in Nigeria. It is important to note the provisions of this act so that we do not fall foul of what it provides. I took time to go through the sections that are relevant to our discussion. Section 1 to 3, sub 1 to 3, which streamlines inventions that are patentable. Inventions are all patentable except those that have been identified as not patentable. And the non-patentable inventions are covered under Section 1, subsection 4 of the P&DA. Some of the examples Prof gave them, it says inventions that offend public policy are not patentable. Then inventions that offend public morality are not patentable. Then plants and animal varieties are not patentable, like you rightly said, sir. For example, cloning. Cloning of any process for cloning cannot be patented. Any process for budding, for people in the plants and the agri-sciences, you cannot bud and want to enjoy patent protection because the law says it is not patentable. But for these other ones, the minimum benchmark is that it must be new and result from an inventive process. And it must be capable of industrial application. That's because for you to commercialize it, it must be a process that you can start manufacturing. If it's just something like a sculpture cannot be a patent, because if you do a good sculpture and I book 100 copies, it means you must sit down and carve 100 times. Is it not so? But the process that you can roll into a machine and it can produce all at once or in one day is what is patentable. Now, Section 2 provides on the right to a patent that is vested in the statutory inventor, like I said earlier. Sub 2 recognizes the position of the right and rights of the true inventor, which must be recognized and stated in the form. Now, it deems all rights derived from the application leading to the grant of a patent as belonging to the true inventor if the statutory inventor failed or neglected to disclose the position of the true inventor. I believe you understand what we're saying here. Go ahead and collaborate with your university or with your employer to patent a product or an invention or a process or an innovation. In fact, an improvement over an existing process is also patentable. The law says even if there's a process and you can show that what you are patenting now is an improvement over an existing process, it is patentable. My turn? How long? 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we have looked at this, but where we are, you see the place I highlighted is Section 2, subsection 4A and B. It says where invention is made in the course of employment or in the execution of a contract for a specific work, patent rights are vested in the employer or the commissioner of the work. And that's what we have been emphasizing. Now, Section 3 makes detailed provisions on the application procedure, which I have gone through. You apply to the Register of Patents and attaching the necessary documents supporting your application. And if it goes through the screening process and it's found patentable, of course, you will be granted the patent license. Now, there's something very important. That's Section 11 and the first schedule to the Act, which provides on compulsory license. Now, this process envisages a situation where you have been granted patent. Because the essence of granting patent is for you to make it serve society, right? So if you get the patent and you are not putting it to work, or you are putting it to work in a manner that's not satisfying the society, an individual, a third party, can now apply to you to grant him license to fulfill that requirement, that objective of satisfying society. If you refuse or fail to grant the license, the person can approach the Federal High Court to seek for an order directing that you should be given the license to produce the same thing that holder of the patent, the patentee, has been unable to do. Now, that is called compulsory license. That compulsory license is very important so that people will not monopolize a process or innovation or invention so that society will be suffering, whereas the need has been there. You know, it happened during the pandemic. The Western world kept hoarding these drugs. They were not sending it in the right quantity to the third world, or no, let me not use third world, to the developing world. And that is where this is what this provision seeks to cure. Now, Prof already covered that, of course, in discussing IP rights. These are the agencies that one might need to. Because of time, I just say World Intellectual Property Organization promotes globally IP rights. Then NOTAP is the agency that cascades the work of IP, the WIPO, to the national body. It's a state federal government agency. And of course, that agency has established IPTT offices in all universities and public research institutions. The idea is to achieve the objectives of commercializing inventions, innovations, and processes. Now, the University of Benin IP policy, like I said, is an official document that clearly articulates the nature and relationship. Then it defines the ownership rights, IP rights, limits of rights, protection of rights, commercialization of IP, and the modalities for sharing accruals from the IP rights. Especially that's section 17 of that IP, the University of Benin IP policy. So that's why I'm saying that this section should be brought in consonance with what the law says, because it talks about sharing formula, 25% to IPTTO, 35% to the creators or the inventors. In fact, it should be inventors. And then 40% to inventors, department or faculty. If you look at this, you will see that nothing goes to the university. It goes to people working with the university or divisions in the university. But university is actually the owner of the research. So it should have been the other way around. So the IPTT office might need to review it to bring it in consonance with the prevailing position of the law. So the IP policy affects or relates to relationship between students, employees, students, graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, and others in the relationship with the university. Now, ownership of IP rights under the policy makes copious provisions on ownership rights and relies well on modified automatic ownership model. But what we're saying is it should gravitate towards ownership, the automatic ownership model, not the professor's privilege approach, or the modified, or the this other one that they are using now, automatic. Okay, that's the second arm of the automatic ownership. Now, exceptions to the general, the policy recognizes the exception to the rule on ownership and adopts them, including issues of copyright inventions, innovations, and all that. Okay, so it talks about ownership options, publications, then contending issues. I don't know how long I still have to go, but let me try and round up. So contending issues, the IP policy is in conflict with the fundamental provisions of the P&DA. That's what we're saying. It's in conflict. And you know that where an institution's policy is in conflict with the law, what will happen? The law prevails. So we might need to tailor it to that. Now, generally, the policy has become grossly obsolete and requires urgent review to bring it in tune with modern and prevailing realities. Now, to face reality, the provisions of the policy should be tailored to recognize the important position of the employer, that's the university, against the background of the enabling environment that it has provided for the researcher to thrive. Now, our recommendations are there. The policy of the university should be made more coherent, ensuring that all sections are captured within the ambit of Nigerian laws on IP. The policy should clearly provide on confidentiality of inventions. In fact, for inventions to be patentable, it must enjoy full confidentiality. If it is disclosed to third parties before patenting, then it doesn't qualify for patenting. And that originality will be defeated. Now, the Uniben should create greater incentives to deepen research efforts of faculty members in order to make participation in research and collaborations more appealing. The IPTT office should also liaise with NOTAP, and this is very important. We are recommending that they should borrow a leaf from what happens in South Africa. They have the National Research Foundation, which pays you for doing the research. Not the university this time. It's the national government that pays. It goes to the university. For example, when you publish in copyright, of course, the articles will publish, provided you publish in approved journals. When you publish, I might just need small time to explain this, please. When you publish in that jurisdiction, the university is paid 130,000 rand for one paper. Now, out of that, the university retains 100,000 rand, pays the publisher 20,000 rand, and keeps 10,000 rand in your research fund. And when you have published up to 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 in a year, it means it's from that research fund that they will sponsor you to any part of the world you want to attend conference, because you produced it, right? Then 20,000 you could use to take care of yourself. So it might be necessary for us to also advise NOTAP to cascade this recommendation to the Federal Ministry of Education and or the third fund for them to remunerate persons who are involved in research. Now, we are also recommending that the institutions should introduce postdoctoral research fellowship. It's very important because postdoctoral research fellowship will now bring cross-fertilization of persons, experts from other countries for a more robust research profile. So I thank the management of Uniben, the director of DRD, the director of Third Fund Center of Excellence, and all others who made this possible. It's been worth the while. But we are saying, we are recommending that it should be more regular. And if we take up these recommendations, it will help to greatly enhance the internally generated revenue profile of the university and provide better economic empowerment for researchers. That's very important, right? And inventors affiliated to University of Benin can be outsiders. If we commercialize, it should benefit the university and researchers that are affiliated to the university. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nelson Ojukwu Ogba. Commercialization pathways from patents to profits. We're going practical now. I know this conference was put together for us, so it's not a one-way conversation. It was intended to be a two-way conversation. So we will be taking questions from our participants across the room. If you have a question, somebody will give you the microphone. You will introduce yourself, tell us your department, your designation, and you go straight to your question. We'll be inviting our speakers to the stage now so that they can take the questions from the participant. The keynote speaker, Professor Ishina Morege, please make your way to the stage. Professor Solomon Omoniho, Professor Nelson Ojukwu Ogba, please make your way to the stage as we take questions from our participants. Please, a round of applause for our speakers as they come off stage. Thank you, sirs. All right, so do we have questions? Questions, comments that the speakers can react to? I have one hand here in front already, so please give Madam the microphone. You introduce yourself and we'll take your questions or your comments.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to say I thank the speakers for the lecture. It was really very educating, and I benefited a lot. So my question to this effect is, I want to understand now, because before now, when we talk about patenting, we usually have issues. For example, we have a patent, I have a patent in conjunction with my supervisor. But we collaborated with Raw Materials Research and Development Council, Abuja, because of the rigor, the logistics involved. So much money was involved in the process, and from our end here in University of Benin, we had nothing to contribute apart from the fact that we did the research in the laboratory, and Raw Materials Research and Development Council, Abuja, found it very interesting and very useful to the industry, and they picked interest in it. Before the thing got to NOTAP for the patent, money needed to be spent because all stakeholders were called to the table in Abuja, got sample of our material, took them back to their industries, came back with reports and all that before the patenting was done. All these were all financed by the Raw Materials Research and Development Council. My question therefore is, now with this new dimension, these processes, will it be done by DREED or IPTO and all that for researchers, scientists, especially when we get these innovations and we feel that our research works are really great innovations that could be patented? Will Uniben help us to do all these processes, before going to NOTAB, so that we don't have to, be depending on other sources? Because like now, the patent that I said we have, the only thing I have, or the only thing we have, my supervisor, Professor Okeme, and I, is we have the certificate. Our names are there. The name of University of Benin is in the list of patenting, whatever. But we don't, because we had nothing to contribute financially. It was all sponsored by them. So what I'm asking this, that if we researchers, we know that Uniben will now do these preliminaries and these logistics for us, we will be encouraged. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
I think we got your question, just that we didn't get your name and your department.
I'm Professor Esther Ikwori. I'm from the Department of Chemistry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
I think, Prof, that's for you.
Prof, thank you very much for your question. We have a policy, and the policy is that go through us to NOTAB. The initial preliminary exercise does not require money. But by the time it gets to the area of validating and they want to cross-check, and University of Benin is convinced that this thing will yield royalty, that's the right term, to the university, we have no option than to make necessary contribution. I know my chairman will support that. Chairman of DREE, director of DREE, will be able to, she's coming up, so let her come up. I think in collaboration we'll be able to sponsor everything concerning the patenting of your research findings. I can assure you of that one. I'm not saying I will be the one, no. I said we, so that you not come a whole IPT2 tomorrow that we said no. I said if the work is good and is patentable, university will surely help in the patenting of that your research findings. Did I say it?
I honestly don't know why he's handing over the mic to me, but I refuse to be committed. The idea is that DREED works in consonance with IPPTO, so that's where we stop. We collect the ideas, we collect where you are going. We want to know what your pathway is, and then we move you to IPPTO, and then we help you with the application process. So I guess we don't have to allow you go to Abuja for the process. We can do the processing for you, exactly. But we are not promising money. I think that's one we have to be very emphatic about. We're not promising money. So when we talk about support, we might be able to do our best to maybe reach out to TED Fund or other partners or potential partners that can help move the process forward. So I think it's very important for us to clarify that, so that you don't come to DREED or IPPTO and say people promise to support us and you're failing in your, or to TED Fund and you're failing in your commitments. But we can make the efforts, definitely. And I think that's why we're here. Thank you.
Maybe if I may add, the ones you are processing so far does not require money, because NOTAB has a partnership understanding with us. So the process for now is borne by NOTAB, and university being a part of NOTAB, so we are part of the processing. For now, they've not charged us any, or they not charge the vendors any serious money for the registration. Maybe when they will look for funds is when they are talking of validating your findings. where they need to go and do research, because whatever you are patenting, they have to verify whether it is true or not. That's where money may be involved. But for now, no money is involved. University borrows the bulk of the money based on our partnership understanding. As he said, IPTTO is the creation of NOPTAB. So we are babies of NOPTAB. It's just like a faculty and a department. So whatever you are doing in a department is borne by the faculty. So it's the faculty that should be held responsible. NOPTAB, they are doing their best. So they don't charge any money for now. Maybe it's when it's going for international registration, where I talked about 3.5 to 4.5 thousand US dollar. That's money may be involved. And if you have a research innovation that is to that extent, people will key in, because the royalty that will come from it is more than that. So I think then you talk about investors who will even tell you, don't worry, register it, we will buy it from you. So I don't think it's a bad idea. Money is not yet involved as for now. As at the time you did your patenting, then universities were not, what I mean universities generally, were not in collaboration with NOTAB. So it was a solo individual registration process. But now NOTAB has taken responsibility on behalf of universities.
I think to add more to what the Director of DRID and IPTTO is saying, now maybe the past experience, there was no form of linkage with government. I think you were left unprotected. Director of IPTTO said they can provide protection, isn't it? So we in Third Fund office, we coordinate by making sure that whatever you are doing, the innovation they are going to bring, we will also let Third Fund office in Abuja know about it. They can also offer some form of support. I wish one of the officials are here to also clarify this, because I know Third Fund do a kind of research fair, and it's even one of the things we have to do in Uniben too. We are still discussing that with Director of DRID, how we can bring about that fair. We will call in the stakeholders, Third Fund, even industry will be involved, because that is where we are going now, in order to get that commercialization we've been talking about. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions here, please.
In addition to what has been said, I just want to add that NOTAB and IPTTO are enablers. They are enablers. If you are involved in research, the first thing you must do is to do your preliminary investigation to be sure that the invention or the process you are working on is patentable. And I said there are inventions that are patentable and those that are not patentable. If you have crossed the threshold of being patentable, then you will be talking of expectation of heavy returns. So IPTTO and NOTAB, in fact, the IP rights protection is a global process. That was why the World Intellectual Property Organization was established in Geneva to supervise and monitor protection of IP rights, be it copyright, trademarks, patents, industrial design, and the neighborhood rights. There are what we call neighborhood rights, the ones that are coming, emerging ones. The basic thing to understand is that the IPPTO is an office that will enable researchers to access help, because IPTTO was established by NOTAB. NOTAB was actually established by WIPO to enable all this. So in terms of funding, if you think it's patentable, of course, you go through Third Fund to apply. Don't you publish your books and you go to Third Fund for assistance to sponsor the publication? The same way, if you are doing research that is patentable, if there's assurance of expected positive result, of course, they will also sponsor it. That's it. But Prof, to the one that raised the first question, the patent you are holding is just sitting there like an artifact on a shelf. It's not helping anybody. The only way it can help you is to make sure it is commercialized. You can go to the University of Benin to commercialize it. You will get your royalties too when it is commercialized. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll take 3 more questions because we have other 3 more questions. Number one, the man on white behind Professor Ikajiagbe and Director of Forensic. 3. Do we have any hands on this side? No, nobody's. Okay, then we'll take you, sir. So 3 and 1, that's 4. We'll still have another Q&A after the program today. So, sir, your question.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to air my own views. I would like to appreciate the organizers of this program. There is something that I'm passionate about, and for long...
Sorry, sir, your name.
My name, sorry, Professor Akpaja Emmanuel, from the Department of Plant Biology and Biotechnology. I feel something is missing all the time. Before we talk of what do you call it, IP, intellectual property rights, and all the gains, something is missing, and if that thing is added to this whole arrangement, it will make it to work better, and that is entrenching the relationship between researchers when it comes to collaboration. I will just give one. I've suffered it up to 2 or 3 times. One in particular, I worked with somebody, we got an extract from a particular mushroom that performed better than Timolol mallet in the market, and at the end of the day, I was pushed aside, and that was all. So if the institution can legalize collaboration, once 2 researchers open up to each other and they can go to the legal department and legalize the, what do you call it, the relationship, nobody will betray the other person. Because we all want collaboration. Many researchers are keeping their thoughts, their ideas within them, and without collaboration, it cannot be patented. Thank you very much.
Okay, see, the answer to your question, sir, is very clear and very simple. Even when we were kids, when we are siblings, we were eating together. Sometimes our parents will put one big meat at the center of the soup, right? To be shared. You share it, and fights don't come out result from it. So when at the commencement of that collaboration, simply put it into writing. You don't need any lawyer to say, okay, when we do this, this percentage will go to this person, this percentage to this. The lead researcher or lead investigator will take maybe 60%. The others will take 30% or 30% to make 100%. So it's simple. It's only when you fail to do that, or when you fail to seek professional advice, maybe from a lawyer, that's where there will be a problem. Go ahead and articulate what you want in a document. Document it and go ahead with your research, and it will be better that you do that, and the result is a patent that has been registered. Then you now say, okay, because you are protecting it, you are like somebody standing at the door, you are not allowing somebody to enter, you are not entering. So that's the problem. Okay, thank you. I believe I've answered the question, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think Director of Trade.
In addition to that, I feel that when you are working in a research group, or you want to set up a research group, it's based on mutual trust. Like what Prof said, you have to state the rules before you start, so everybody will know where they belong. I started a group years ago, and I remember when we did some research work, we set the rule, and we even told ourselves, okay, you take charge of this, take charge of that, and when the publications are to come, person in charge of publication we put all our names down, and we put names, and we had up to 12 papers in 1 year. And from then on, we've been publishing, doing research and publishing. There has not been any quarrel. So if you know you have this person in your group you are not comfortable with, discontinue. It happens because you are dealing with human beings from different backgrounds. So it's based on trust. And if you don't have that trust, you can't work together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's I just want to chip in something. It's one thing to come together to write a paper. It's another thing to come together to produce something that will be commercializable. So I think that's where we are transitioning towards, especially with this conference. What Professor Akpaja has raised is a real issue. It's a problem. I think he's just one of the few bold people, that are able to express this. These are things that make researchers to withdraw from coming out with products and collaborating. So how do we solve this particular problem? Where do we go from here? One of the outputs of day one is to come up with a position paper which will present to the Vice Chancellor. I had a discussion with him outside anyway, which will present to the Vice Chancellor, even if it's not just for awareness, but just to make us researchers know the importance of documenting things. Now, I speak both as director of DREED and as a lawyer. You can't rely on just friendship, to come up with collaborative research like that. You need to document every single thing. Who has what role? What responsibility do you have? What happens if this is breached, and so on and so forth? Just like Professor Ogwa said, it is important for us. I hope this is a wake-up call for all of us not to take anything for granted, especially as far as collaborative research is concerned. The truth is, I have looked around the University of Benin and I have seen a lot of deep and highly potential research for commercialization. But the next session will tell us how well we have done in this regard. We have done really poorly. And this is not because we are not aware, even if that's one of the problems, but because we are afraid, because we are very reserved about it. So this is one of the ways that we are going to break that kind of impediment, break that kind of reservation. Let us come out and collaborate. If your problem with collaboration is trust, is people breaking out or people breaching agreements, then move from verbal agreements to documentary agreements. It's that easy.
Okay, my name is Beckley Ajangbe. I am a student. I graduated 6 years ago. My supervisor, Professor John, we did a research. But I'm actually giving a scenario. I'm trying to create a scenario. 5 years ago, I graduated, only to find out that this year, 2026, Professor John has patented a part of what I did as my BSc research. Not entirely 100%, but say he improved on what I did. Any hope for me? My name is not there. Any hope for me? That's my question.
Thank you, Prof. Who is reacting to that? Okay.
Okay, Professor Kajagwe, the issue is the simple rule of first in time, right? The simple rule is first in time. When you do your research, there are records, it's a stream of records, dates you did your investigation 1, the date you did investigation 2, and all that. So if you have all that logged, and somebody goes ahead to present what you have done, then the law will look at the person who started it, who started the process. But remember, until you patent the invention, you are not protected. If you delay it and another person goes ahead to patent it, you are not protected. So that is why you must protect what you are working on. guard against a third party coming into contact with the information. Because the rule says it must be new. No, okay, fine. If a student, if you look at, okay, fine. What in the laws? It says you as a student, the output of your research belongs to the school if you're a student. That was why somebody like Bill Gates dropped out of the university to go and patent his Microsoft. You, of course, the rest is history, you know. So as far as you're a student, you can arrange for the patenting. Don't sit on the fence. For you to enjoy the protection of the law, it must be patented. That's the rule. Thank you.
We'll take a question.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to appreciate organizers of this program. I just wanted to bring to the organizers and the university in general, please, Prof, please. I think the gap between us.
Okay, sorry, Prof, sorry, let me just address further what Professor Kariabwe raised. If your supervisor went ahead to patent that process and it was jointly owned, what does the law say? The law says the person who applied for patenting is is the statutory inventor. The person who actually worked it is the true inventor. And what does the law say? The law says if the statutory inventor failed to disclose the identity or the position of the true inventor, the law would deem that all the processes were done by the true inventor and it will belong to him. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Yeah. Well, what I was trying to say before he came in was that the university need to decide the gap between us and the society, the industry, the entrepreneur outside is too wide. Because today's program reminds me of entrepreneurship being introduced to university curriculum. When entrepreneurship was introduced to university curriculum, I was expecting that great entrepreneurs, even if they did not go to school, will be the major adjunct lecturer. But at the end of the day, we pick ourselves and start researching and start recycling the same information on the internet to students, which is wrong, very wrong. Like today, I expected to see one or two entrepreneurs, whether educated or not educated, who will share practical experience. It can be in communication, it can be in transportation, it can be in telecommunication, it can be in electronics, it can be anywhere. That is the hallmark. Because if you look at the global brand of invention that actually making it is not from the university. The few ones from the university are even actually students. Thank God you gave an example just now of Bill Gates who dropped out, to Zuckerberg, who also, finished. Then Steve Jobs did not finish, but Steve Jobs has been invited to so many universities to come and give a talk because it's the brand name for Apple. So we need to close the gap. We need to relate with the industry. We need to tell ourselves the whole truth. Because the problem, like Madam said just now, that she doesn't know what to do. Nothing stops you from calling even the one you call stark illiterate, who have been trending on entrepreneurial system. How did you go about it from nothing to something? If we learn to close the gap, perhaps we'll do better. Because even in the university right now, take it or leave it, whether we like it or not, it's more abstract thinking. And because of the abstract thinking, that's why we are faced with the challenge. And because of the abstract thinking, that's why we are virtually encapsulated with Caucasian curriculum. And those Caucasian curriculum is not going to free us from our enslavement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm always intrigued by your vocal interventions. I particularly like them because you speak the mind of most of us. But may I kindly say that you are jumping the gun as far as this conference is concerned, because I'm sure you'd have seen that the conference is research, innovation, and enterprise. And that means that we're just moving from one level to the other. So today is just on moving from patents to commercialization. Tomorrow is actually where we're going to have several discussions around the triple and the quadruple helix. So we have people from government, we have people from industry, we have people from academia, And then we have people from civil society. We do have entrepreneurs coming tomorrow. Prof, I hope you're coming tomorrow. Okay, so you're coming tomorrow. So, Professor Ikwarrior, there's even someone from Rubber Research Institute coming tomorrow. So we have the opportunities to ask even more questions and get more clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you. I have the last person here. The last person is here, please. We'll take your question after now, not in this session. There's a Q&A coming up. We'll take your question. We're working with time, sir. We'll address it, don't worry.
Yeah, good day, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Engineer Pius Iyere. My question is, if a researcher discover what somebody has done and now be able to improve on what that person has done and becomes better, can that researcher patent it? And my second question is, if you have done the work and you have published it, is it still possible for you to patent it? Thank you.
Okay, one, like I rightly said earlier, I said it must be new. That's what the law says. It must be new for it to be patentable. The law also recognizes that you have improved on an existing process. It says an improvement over an existing process is also patentable. Does that answer your question, sir? That's the first arm of it. The second one is, is it there? What's the second one? Okay, fine. If you have published it, it is no longer new. It is no longer novel. The law says it must be novel. If you have published it, it has defeated, that process has defeated the requirement of newness and originality. It is no longer patentable. That's why I say you must protect it like it's a trade secret. You must protect it with all two hands and if possible 2 legs. You must protect it until you have patented it. That's it.
All right, thank you so much, sirs. You still want to add something?
To the publication, if you look at the most internationally recognized journals, they send you a form of copyright waiver or ceding your copyright to the job before it is published. So once you have ceded that right to the publishing journal, it's no longer your property. You sold it out already now. You're signing that document show that it's no longer an original copy of yours, rather it's for the journal that published it. So you cannot go about going to patent such an article anymore.
Right, thank you, sir. You have all of the plates already. Okay, we'll do a quick presentation to our speakers by the director of DREED before they go to their seats. First on the list, we'll be making a presentation, an award presentation to Professor Ehishina Omorige. Please a round of applause for her. Thank you, ma. Also, another presentation to Professor Solomon Omoniho. Professor Nelson Ojukwu Ogba. A round of applause to all our speakers. And also a round of applause for yourselves for being a very engaging audience. We are not through with the day one of this conference. We'll be moving straight to the next session, and that session might be a bit more practical than what you just saw. We're taking real stories from Nigerian researchers who have successfully commercialized their work. And now to handle that session is none other than Professor Ehiga Enabudo. So please make welcome Professor Ehiga to the stage.
Yes, I'll start with this. I can see the director is leaving, but man, you're going to miss a lot. Too. Professor Miss Omorike, man, you are going to miss a lot. Great. So she said she will be coming back. Let's give a big round of applause to ourselves, please. I'm welcoming you to one of the last sessions for today, but incidentally, it happens to be the best of all the sessions. It's going to be a session for real life stories. It's going to be a time whereby we can learn from those who have successfully done it. Sometimes people say that experience is the best teacher. So you find that occasionally we go to school, we learn a lot, we learn about what others have done, but until you do it, you can't claim to be an expert. So today we're going to listen to renowned experts from our own institution, those who have blazed the trail and who have been able to make some degree of money from their research work. We're going to call upon two of them who will come in to help to share their stories. The first on the list is Dr. Edogogo Olayi. Please a round of applause for Dr. Olayi. Dr. Olayi is an associate professor in this university and principal investigator of the Whitewater Research Group, where he leads research initiatives at the intersection of computing, innovation, and emerging technologies. You can sit down, sir. His passion lies in leveraging technology to modernize manual processes, particularly through embedded systems, intelligence systems, and software engineering. He's actively involved in teaching and supervision at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. His commitment to education and impactful industry collaborations is further exemplified by his success in securing very successful research grants for projects focused on AI-driven healthcare and mobile communication networks quality. He is currently the acting director of the Center for Artificial Intelligence Development of the University of Benin. Please a round of applause for Dr. Olayi. So some may say, oh, you are in a very, very lucrative area, artificial intelligence, so that's why. So let's see somebody who is not in that particular field specifically. We'll call upon Dr. Osarenoto Osayowambo. Please a round of applause for him. Dr. Osayowambo is a renowned environmental specialist and academic, recognized for its exceptional work in toxicology and environmental development. He's a senior lecturer at the University of Benin, teaching courses like hazardous substance management and waste management. Some key highlights about him: he has won a lot of grants. He's a fellow of the African Institute of Waste Management and Environmental Studies, member of various international groups, over 30 scholarly publications in his main field, environmental management and public health microbiology. He's also the co-founder and chief scientific officer of Micro Farming BV, a clean tech startup using mushrooms for wastewater cleanup. So you can see why people are afraid of mushrooms. He's using mushrooms to make money. He's also a recipient of prestigious grants like the INSA JROD Tata Fellowship and World Bank Scholarship. He's a respected leader in environmental science, balancing academia, research, and community service. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Sayowambo. I am Professor Higai Nabudoso. I am of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, School of Medicine of this university. You are welcome to this very session. We're going to start this session by hearing from their stories. So they will have 5 minutes to give us some idea about how they have been able to transform their teaching, their learning, and then their research into some degree of fund making for themselves. Each of them will take about 5 minutes to do that. Thereafter, we'll have a few questions for them. I will start with some of those questions, and thereafter, I will give the opportunity for those of us who are here to also ask questions so that we can learn from their practical experience. Thereafter, we will have the second aspect of this, which is a free-for-all. And there, a lot of the things that we've already discussed, some of the questions that I've already brought up, I can see Professor Eddie has left. I thought some of those things that he brought up are things that we also discuss as a family, because we need to see how we can navigate our way across some of those challenges that we'll keep talking about. We've talked about trust issues and so many, and it's not peculiar to us. It's a global issue, and it's something that we need to take very seriously. So permit me now to call upon Dr. Olaye to share his experience of how he was able to move from just being in the lab to coming out to make some significant inputs into innovation. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Olaye.
Thank you very much. Kindly permit me to maintain existing protocol. I'm going to be talking about my experience. I have to make my 5 minutes talk very impactful rather. So I'll talk about the theory and the practical realities, and then move on to share some of my experiences. It's important to talk about what commercialization actually is. It's a process of bringing a new product, service, or innovation to the market. As part of the framework that can guide commercialization, there's what is called the technology readiness level, TRL. And there are 9 stages involved in that. Sadly, most of us are in the first 4 stages of that framework, which is the basic research. And because of this thing of publish or perish, we find ourselves in that stock there. And some of us who have managed to go beyond that are in the valley of death. Hopefully, you get to learn about that in your further research. But it's not a theory session, it's a practical session. And the main gap is that there is a weak linkage between academia and industry. And that is what I hope to help us find a way out of. The practical reality is that don't expect the same kind of infrastructural support or systematic support that our colleagues enjoy in other developed nations. Don't expect that kind of support here. You need to hold on to any branch you can get and move your way up. Another important thing of note is that practical reality is that there's a language the industry speaks, and that's not necessarily the language we speak here. Okay, you need to learn that language. If you cannot learn the language, please get an interpreter. All right, I would like to see my slides if you don't mind. All right, I need to show you some of the efforts I've made as a researcher without breaking even in terms of commercialization. I did a work on scorpion sting management, another one on hybrid microphone, the one you can use to navigate slides just as you are presenting without this additional device. I did one on pothole, cost estimation. I did several of them. These ones did not get commercialized. The work I put into some of these things is far more than the work I'm putting into some of the things that are bringing money in. So that's a reality. If you look at the next slide, so The ones that are getting commercialized are not as fantastic as those ones I just mentioned, and many others. Of course, I happen to publish from them, but the publications did not bring naira and kobo in. Okay, and the ones that got commercialized are the ones that were not as fantastic as the others. The industry demanded for the ones that got commercialized. I was not too sentimental about the work. It was just business, you know. Innovation was the emphasis rather than contribution to knowledge, and IP protection was the emphasis again rather than publications. So I may not be free to discuss them in details, but it's my experience I will be able to share with you. I'll just move on. There are just four I just thought I should just mention to guide my conversation. Informally, in the course of providing some engineering services, this solar installation, several years ago before these guys have taken over the industry, we used to install solar systems for clients, and I developed a solution to automatically monitor the solar usage, to put it off and on, and so on and so forth. So informally, 3 units of that was sold before I pulled out. Software solutions based on the consultancy arrangement is another success story. Several of them for government, for private individuals, not for university yet. Okay. So metering technology, that was based on contract R&D. Contract R&D is a pathway to commercialization, where it's actually an industry pool thing. A word about what I've been saying about industry pool. There's the approach we are used to. You go to the lab, you do your research, you think you have done something great, you've come up with technology, and you try to push it to the industry. That approach is a bit ineffective. So the other approach is where the industry comes looking for you with a problem they have, and then you attempt to solve it for them. Please, can I see the slides to just guide us? So contract R&D is a model I used to deliver metering technology for industry, and then precision agriculture is the one I'm currently on right now. And the things I've learned over the years, I'm beginning to put them into practice in this one, precision agriculture. So I've not published anything here in this precision agriculture. So I'll just move on. So I've talked about industry pool. What we are doing differently now is that there are some experienced team members who are not engineers or researchers like me, but they are driving the commercialization process right from inception. So precision agriculture, the efforts we are making in that direction is one of it. It's a little bit neater now than all the efforts I've put in before. It's just being without institutional support, or without the knowledge of institutional support also. It's been a struggle, just putting all the effort you can to get something done. All right, a word about grants versus industry collaboration. Academics want to publish, want to tell everybody that you've done this. But the industry, what I've noticed from my experience is that they want to protect their IP. It's their primary concern. They make you sign non-disclosure agreements. So there are some things I cannot even talk about here now. Okay, so they want to, so you must understand. That's why I said earlier, if you don't understand the language, get an interpreter. Okay? Research can be for research sake or for commercialization. You can do both. You could be a solid researcher. You have 10,000 citations, 10,000 publications, 2,000 every year. And that is good in itself, because when people need experts in a particular area, they come looking for you. Okay? But there's another approach. Okay? There's another approach where you try to collaborate with industry. Time is fast spent, so I'll just wrap up my conversation. So my final thoughts: be a collaborator, collaborate. There's a difference between the two. Value people's contribution, and then the push model has its limitations. I would advise that you try the industry pull approach, especially in our environment. Thank you very much.
Please a round of applause for him. Thank you very much, sir. I think one very important thing that he talked about is that you should be intentional. So you need to decide, am I going to research for publications, or I'm interested in the, I think they call it Bali, I'm interested in the money that comes out of it. He said at the very beginning, he was interested in publications, publish or perish. But after a while, he decided that he needed to improve his bank account, and he was very intentional. So that's one thing that I talked about. Also that you should learn to target the relevant industries that will use your research outputs, and then you start the discussion early. I think in research and innovation, they call that the co-create. So you need to co-create with the industry or with government agencies that you think will use it. So it's important that our research is not just for publication alone. After you've gained some reasonable experience, you should now be thinking of innovation and commercialization. Please, another round of applause for him. We will now be going on to the next presentation by Dr. Osayowambo. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. So I'll start with this. My own story is a bit different. In 2017, I commenced my PhD journey. I just wanted to have a PhD. So I was searching for topics. And then I met a very respected researcher in the area I was interested in. He's right here in the hall, Professor Akbaja. And I said, I want to work on microfiltration. And he guided me to an estate. Then I traveled to India. When I go to India, I discovered that it was more than what we were doing. There were so many approaches to it. In 2019, I traveled to India through the INSA JROD Tata Fellowship, also facilitated by another respected professor is here, Professor Imaragbe. So when I got there, I discovered that we could optimize the process more than what I was doing. So I redesigned my PhD work, and I did it again. I wanted to have a PhD. I was not interested in commercialization. Then it's a criteria to publish in my university where I did my PhD, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi in Ghana, to publish 2 Scopus journals before you graduate with a PhD. So I published in 2 Scopus journals. Then, I think in 2023, January precisely, I was sleeping in my house, and I like to search my phone. I'm always on social media. So I saw an email, and I opened it. It said, my name is Juan Cruz Tubio. I live in Amsterdam. I'm a founder of Microfarming, a startup that is interested in cleaning wastewater using mushrooms. Would you like to work with me? Immediately I replied, yes. And we started talking. He booked a Zoom meeting with me. He saw my face and we started working together online. Then he said, would you like to come to Amsterdam to continue this work? I said, yes, I would like to come. Then he sent invitation papers. I went through the process of visa application. And he said, book your ticket. When you get there, I'll pay you. I said, Nigerian man. I said, no, I don't have money for that. That's 2,000 euros. KLM is 2,000 euros. I said, I'm not paid. I don't have money. I said, you send the tickets. The following 30 minutes, he sent me tickets to come to Amsterdam. So I landed in Amsterdam. The first picture was this is the first picture where I landed in the airport in Schiphol, the Schiphol airport. This is Schiphol airport in Amsterdam. This is the first time I met him. He's an Argentine, but he's based in Netherlands. To surprise you that this guy is a BSc student. He's studying artificial intelligence, and he owns one of the biggest startups in Netherlands, in Amsterdam currently. before I went there, he said, you need to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. That is why I cannot say so much things here. You have to sign an NDA. This is a research I just did. It's a minute part of my work. So why not? If not, it will waste away. And you can even get another person to do it. I'm not the only researcher who has worked on this field. So I signed the NDA. And when I landed there, we started working together. And this is the company. This is the logo. This logo is trademarked. It's a trademark for them. Micro-farming. Then these are the members of the team. So we started working together. For the 3 months I was there, we did what he called contract R&D. We got, the first grant we got was from Rabobank for 25,000 euros to do a study, a preliminary study to validate the prototype that we got, to get a prototype first. We needed to get a prototype before we can hit the market to have an MVP. MVP is minimum viable product. Prototype validates the product, while MVP validates the market. So we developed the prototype using this 25,000 euro from Rabobank. This is part of the money he used to fly me to Amsterdam, and he used to take care of me while I was there for 3 months. To surprise you to know that this journey, he quitted his room for me. That's the life of an entrepreneur, because there's difficulty getting accommodation in Amsterdam. Up to date, even till now, those of you that have traveled there, you know. He quitted his apartment for me and started staying with his girlfriend so that I could have a place to stay. So we worked together. So the major problem in Amsterdam is not a problem here, but it's a problem there for them. Is that most of their waters are polluted with nitrogen and phosphorus as a result of excessive organic manure from the animals, because they have lots of cattle farms. So that was the problem he was trying to solve. That was why Rabobank is an agricultural bank. They gave him 25,000 euros for the initial R&D. And from there we started attending pitches together. We go to different competitions to pitch. Some will win, some we did not win. And this is the farm where we did our first study, our site study. So why? This is the lab we are working. That's my research assistant. She was a student as at that time. She's a Swiss lady. One thing you should, as an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, a researcher to entrepreneur, is that you must learn to acknowledge people who are working with you. He has never failed to acknowledge me in every interview he has granted in Amsterdam. This is a popular newspaper in the university. My name was mentioned there. He never fails to mention my name. Anytime he grants interview, he always mentions my name. This is another one, but it's written in Dutch. But you can see my name there, written in Benin. This is a Dutch writing, but my name is there written in Benin. He never fails to mention my name anywhere he's granting interview. The hallmark is that when I was leaving, I left there December 22nd, 2023. While I was leaving, he said, would you like to be a co-founder in micro-farming? I said, yes, I would like to be a co-founder in micro-farming. He said, I'm going to offer you a percentage share in the company. And I said, yes, I would like to be. So we have been working together ever since. The company has faced some ups and downs. We are still working. But one thing, I want to also tell you that it's an improvement of previous work that has been done in that area. It's an improvement. And he has filed for patent already because he has searched and there's no patent on that area we have improved on. That was what he contracted me to do, to improve on what has been done previously. I want to also tell you that you have given out so many patents unknowingly through your publications. Me and you, we have given out a lot. He was a nice guy, that's why he even invited me. If he got another person to refine the work for him, he will not invite me to come to Amsterdam. So we should learn to publish what we can publish, but those that we feel that are new to us, keep it. I want to tell you, I was telling him, my PhD work, I could get 10 papers from it, but since 2022 I got back, I've only published those 2 papers. The rest I've kept them because of this company, because there are so many information on that thesis that I don't want to send to any journal. So I published BSc student work that I have here. I have not published any other work from that PhD work. I kept it, it's on the shelf, and I will not publish it. So that's my story. But as entrepreneurs, as researchers, let's do research that we identify what in innovation class they call it pain points, user persona. That is, we should identify a problem in Nigeria to solve. This was not the problem in Nigeria. I never was interested in commercialization. I just did a PhD. But he picked it up because it's a problem over there, and he has been working on it. So recently he called me and said, we would like to have you back in Amsterdam very soon. Immediately we get an investor. There's an investor that is interested in what we are doing. Immediately we get the major investments. We would like to have you back in Netherlands. So I told him, I'm always ready to come anytime. But I'll be working with them remotely, so there's an intern on ground. Anytime they have any issue, I always communicate with them. I've had so many fights with my former HOD, Professor Inuneku. Severally, I will tell him I have a Zoom meeting to attend. He will say, there's a parliamentary board meeting. So we have had several fights on that, severally. So I'll be working with them. So that is my commercialization journey. Thank you.
No, I can hold the mic. What I say here is that all those who are commercial driven are very secretive. He just kept talking, but he refused to hit the nail on the head. They tell you all the stories around it, but they don't want to tell you the exact path. But it's important. They are waking us up that there are certain things that we need to learn. That there's a difference between research for publication and research for commercialization. So that's something that we must take away today. But before we go into the real big questions, let me ask you, this man from Argentina working in Netherlands, how was he calling your name?
Osas.
It had to be, because if he tried Osayon, I'm sure that he will have a lot of challenges. So now we can understand. For me then, they'll just call me Enaps, because struggling to call your name by those guys can sometimes be very difficult. And we find that many Nigerians, once they get there, they change their names. I don't think that should be. We should popularize our names. If we can learn their names, the responsibility is upon them to also learn ours. So a big round of applause for both of them, please. Maybe I also start with some very simple questions. We've been talking about supervisors not adding the names of their trainees. So let me ask you point blank. You have mentioned your supervisor here now, and you went to Netherlands. You never mentioned anything about your supervisor when you got to Netherlands. So tell us what you have done with your supervisor.
You mean my PhD supervisors?
Yes.
Okay, because I've signed an NDA. If it's my startup, I can boldly mention their name, but it's an NDA I've signed, and it's also an improvement of what I did in my PhD. There are several work on it on the internet. In short, let me tell you that I asked him, how did you find me? He said he searched all papers related to that field, over 50 in reputable journal. Take notes. Reputable journal. He told me. He said he put them on the table and got the emails from some of them that he was interested in and sent that email to all of them. And that I was the first to reply. I replied within 10 minutes. That was the first mark of somebody who is ready to work with a startup. Yes, so that's it.
You've also hit on some of the things that we'll probably still talk about, the issue of social media. Social media being quite important and an avenue for you to get yourself known. And also, obviously, the issue of publications in reputable journals. But one of the take-home from yours, really, is that it was an issue of chance. Yours was somebody was looking for a collaborator. You were here, like every one of us, trekking around and going into labs and they are taking light and you complain. And then all of a sudden somebody sends you an invite and that's a chance. And then you latched on to that chance. Many of us have chances, but unfortunately we are not able to make the best of such chances. So yours, one of the big things here is that you had the opportunity, the chance came up. But the other thing too is that you must also be prepared for the chance. That also will pick from you that you were prepared based on the preliminary works that you had already done. Now let's look at the university setting. For many universities, the motto for our university is knowledge and service. So usually you will have knowledge, teaching, learning, then you've got service, and then you've got research. You find that many of us seem to be more comfortable with the issue of teaching. Research doesn't seem to be one where we have so much expertise. And then you're not talking of innovation and then commercialization. You have already talked now also about some of the challenges you've had with your department in terms of clash in timing for certain issues. So how have you been able to navigate the issue of taking your lectures, teaching, learning, and mentorship, and then going into active research with the aim of commercialization and innovation?
Okay, let me refer back to what you said. Yes, chance is very important. In short, when I got there, I discovered that it's not what we are doing here. I've been to India previously anyway. I've been to Ghana, so I know about laboratory. So it was time to prepare sodium arginate beads. I've never done it in my life. I needed to prepare sodium arginate beads. That research intern was looking up to me to prepare sodium arginate beads in the lab. I was in trouble. I said, this is real trouble. What did I do as a Nigerian man? I went to YouTube. Over the night, before that day, I went to YouTube, practiced back and forth. The Indians have so many videos on how to make all these things on the internet, on YouTube. I went to YouTube back and forth. Then I got 2 papers that I've used the chemical formulation for sodium arginate beads. Then when I got there, I said, yes, today, Iris, we are preparing sodium arginate beads with boldness. So I started speaking, give me this. He would say, yes, doctor, because she's a BSc student. I said, give me sodium, measure 25 grams for me, measure this for me. Then I put it on the mechanical, is it shaker? Yes, so the thing came out and I was shocked that I had sodium arginate beads that I've never produced before. So, yes, so balancing research, teaching, research, and innovation. There has to be a balance. So what I do these days is that every lecture I teach, there's a touch of innovation in it. I teach GST 1, 2, 3. Last Thursday, I was in science class here, and I told them that all these things we are doing, history of philosophy and science, you can use it to be an innovator. All the Aristotle and co that I was teaching them, I said, these people did not go to school, but they were philosophizing or what the philosophy. So I have converted my teaching classes into innovative classes. Hazardous substance management has a touch of innovation. Waste management has lots of innovation. When I want to tell them about waste recycling, there are lots of innovation in it. Turning plastic, recycling of plastic PET bottles, there are lots of innovation in it. Looking for optimal routes for a waste dump site, there's innovation. So when I'll be able to do that, then the real question, maybe I have meetings, board meetings with them over there. The schedule, I make sure the schedule doesn't lap into my teaching time. So I always ask them ahead, what time is the meeting? If they say it's also time, I'll tell them, no, this time I'm not free. Let's put it at this time. This is when I'll be free. Then they oblige me and I have my meetings with them. Yeah.
Dr. Olaye, please.
Okay, all right. Combining it is a bit challenging, but when one has set up some priorities for how you go about your career, it's easy to navigate. For instance, I had situations where I have up to 4 meetings in a day, and nobody even knows what's going on, you know, because I've prioritized. Okay, you're moving from one committee meeting here, and to the other meeting where approved, and you move to the other one where you are looking at something else. And then in between those meetings, you have to go in for a Google Meet or Zoom meeting, and you are talking something different. So you have to recalibrate your brain immediately again and start speaking something different from approve here. Okay, so once you prioritize, again, there are some responsibilities that you have to let go of. Okay, I have had to be a course advisor for 5 years, and that was because I was developing a solution for course advisors. So I took up the job of course advising so that I could develop software just to add value to my home institution. I didn't charge anybody for it. My department used it to process results automatically for the 5 years I did course advising. Thankfully, the university has a system for that now. Okay? That's my way of combining what I'm doing. And in that process, because I was doing that for my department, anytime they see me on my system, they just give me that respect and, you know, he's probably doing something about our problem. Not knowing that I was also building software for another company in the process. Okay. Again, there are some things you can do, like proper time management. Then delegation. There are things I know I have to do myself. Those things are the things I prioritize. If I have something that that can be done for me, I find ways to delegate it to other persons. So those are some of the coping mechanisms. Again, the institution can help in this regard. There are some people that are not administrators. You don't force them to become administrators. There are some that are not teachers. I mean, someone can be a scholar but not be a good teacher. I hope you agree. You can be a scholar but not a good teacher. Just be a role model. There are people say that this guy is a scholar. This guy has 10,000 public citations. This guy has 20 patents. He has made also $1 billion for the university. But he doesn't come to class to teach. He's just that role model. Why some probably graduated with a 2-2, struggle through master's, PhD, and they are excellent teachers. So we need to learn how to take advantage of the gifts and the abilities, the skills that we have in our environment. That could also help. So there was a professor that came in from Metropolitan a university, let me just not mention the name, university in UK, and he said that because of how much grants he has attracted to the university, they have given him leave from teaching. He is no longer required to teach any student. All he does is just attract grants in millions of pounds to the university. That's all he does. So I think we also need to look at that. And again, okay, let me stop there for now. Let me stop there.
Yeah, that's fine. Please, a round of applause for that. I think you raise a lot of very important issues. But one is that you created a solution for your department and you didn't patent it. So you see, that was then. I'm sure now that you are into commercialization and innovation, any small thing that you do, you quickly run to DRID and IBBTO to think of how you can patent it. Because you said the university has improved on it and they are making money with it. So you probably lost out on that. But it's important to...
Just a correction. I did my own in parallel to what the university did. So I did my own as a solution to the problem in my work environment, while the university had something else. So there are two parallel things.
Yeah, that's fine. There was also something very important that you talked about, that maybe you call it specialization on issues that have to do with either research, innovation, or straightforward teaching. And sometimes that's also important. I share a similar experience. One of my big mentors in the University of Sheffield is a Nigerian who has done so well. He has some of the biggest grants in the UK. And you find that there's no way you can have time to be coming to the classroom and teaching undergraduates. And I also know that a good number of researchers in this university, they are not just tied to postgraduate students. So you don't have all that leisure of giving them time to be speaking with the junior classes. And if they have to go there, they're only there to give them some highlights about how you can improve in life, and not necessarily to just be teaching them how to write A, B, C, and D, but how to improve and aspire to greater things. So I think we too are already doing that. Now let's look at the issue of working in the university. And that's one of the challenges, and I heard it in some of the previous sessions. How are you able to navigate the bureaucracy of the university? Because what I tend to have heard today is that you seem to have done this on private basis. So what are your thoughts? So if you haven't had such experience, what are your thoughts about navigating the bureaucracies that are imposed on you by the system that pays your basic bills?
Okay, thank you very much. Closely related to commercialization is grants. For basic research, apart from funding the research yourself, usually as academics we attract grants to fund research, and there are a lot of granting bodies. My experience with that, as before this administration, was that I attracted NRF, TED Fund NRF grant, and I observed that it took so long before I even knew that payment has been made to the university, that TED Fund had released funding. And I was partnering with people from United Nations, I was partnering with private individuals and other researchers from other institutions. So I had to do a lot of explaining. Those bureaucracies can be very painful, okay? And again, the process will just look like you are just imagining that if I get a grant from this organization and it lands into this university's account, it's not coming out to you. Just advise yourself. So these are ways we can do better. Okay, the experience I have with bureaucracy is what I'm talking about now. So there's something called contract R&D. I mentioned it. He mentioned it. This is an arrangement where you have a contractual agreement with an organization from the industry, or maybe even government, and your role is to carry out research on a problem they have identified and given to you. Normally, it goes with a non-disclosure agreement. So whatever you come up with, they give you all the resources, they pay you for that. Whatever you come up with is theirs. So to overcome these bureaucratic issues, I think Prof here, IPPTO has a role to play there. Because in one of my contractual agreements, because I entered it when I was already working in University of Benin, I insisted that they should add a percentage that will go to my host institution from the royalties that come out from the products. I insisted. And I was talking with a professor. The professor now told me that, okay, I have to take this up with university management so that university will know that they have an interest somewhere and they follow it. But the truth is that if I had put the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart, however way you want to look at it, and started pursuing university bureaucracies, I probably would never have gotten the opportunity in the first place. You see, he responded to an email in 5 minutes. The reason why industry collaborates with some of us is because of our responsiveness. So they need something, I provide it in 2 minutes. And they start building trust, and they start seeing that this person is dependable. Okay? But if there's a situation, they just need a letter from me, and it takes 3 months to bring out that letter. And people are wondering, what's wrong with this person? What's wrong with, start losing relevance, losing trust, and the confidence level drops. So we can do better there by, I think we are moving in the right direction, because we are beginning to raise the awareness for this, and the NOTAP and IPPTO office are working together. I was in a training where they mentioned some of these things. So there's a lot of work in that direction now. So I'm seeing that things will begin to improve as we move forward. So we also need to put heads together and also suggest ways to make it faster. Yes, there's always a place for abuse, and unfortunately as Nigerians, that's what we suffer. People are trying to do the right thing. Some other persons are taking advantage of that opening and abusing it. So we also need to put safeguards. I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
you so much. Please, a round of applause for him. We're almost rounding up this first part of the session. I'm going to ask something that's generic. Virtually everybody talks about it. And I usually say it's those at the bottom that tend to complain about it, but forgetting that he who was at the bottom today, tomorrow where will he be? At the top. And then those at the bottom will now start pointing accusing fingers at that same person who 10 years ago complained about those who were on top. I've tried to use the word jealousy. They usually will tell you that, oh, I'm in a department and so I'm doing so well, and then as far as they're concerned, everybody becomes jealous of you. And you're wondering, is jealousy part of the system? So I'm going to ask the two of you now, if you have experienced that, and how have you coped with it? Because I know many have either run away from the system or have abandoned it because of either the real or perceived jealousy that they tend to experience.
Yeah, the way to deal with that is to show them the way. They are jealous because they don't have the platform to, or they don't have information. So if you have information, also give to them so that they will also grow the way you are growing. If everybody in a family is rich, nobody will use witchcraft to deal with the other person as we say in Africa. So the way to do that is to make sure if you have information, give it up. Let me give you an example. I've been able to help somebody in this university to travel for a similar program that is not related to my area, because I saw it when I was in India. I contacted him. I said, are you interested in this? He said yes. So I gave it to him and he traveled to India. Even this program, they needed a young person, less than 30. And I contacted somebody. Unfortunately, the person told me that her boss will not allow her to go. That if her boss hears that, she's supposed to be in Amsterdam by now. She says she cannot go. So the way to do it is to show them the way and also just focus on what you are doing.
Dr. Lai, let's hear.
All right, this from perspective of the person making progress. Now let me take it from the perspective of those or the other end of the jealousy thing. Okay, closely related to jealousy is envy. Now, in my presentation, I talked about be a collaborator. Then I now said collaborate. There's a difference between the two. There will be jealousy or envy will be misplaced if you are a part, even if it's a small part of a big thing. We have a mindset, because it's a mindset thing now, we need to start shaping it. We have a mindset that if I'm involved in something, I must be the organ. I start building territory and start acquiring and building my own empire and start working in silos. So this man's camp is there, my own camp is here. Start building around yourself. That mindset, I'm a black man, so I can say that black man's mindset, it's limiting us. So you see the young guy, that BSc student that was able to sponsor Prof. How many of us can sponsor me now to Amsterdam? So you be pipe low now, calm down. No need to be envious. Collaborate. If somebody knows the road, look at the person and see how you can work with the person, be part of it. Then I said something, I don't know, I think I put it in my slide, that don't learn how to value people. And I'll add to that, don't overvalue yourselves. And this needs explanation. So if there's somebody in my team and the only thing that person does is promote what we are doing on social media, you understand, there are some people that will just take their phone and do a nice video. I was working with my team. I didn't know somebody, a student was recording. And before you know it, the student posted one fantastic post on social media. I did not even authorize it. But it was so pleasant that I noted, I said, you're going to be very good in this. So that's how to value people. You cannot channel that energy. Then don't overvalue yourself. It means that if your role in a team is just to cross-check whether what was typed is correct or not, whether there's a typographical error, don't expect that when the principal investigator is traveling to Amsterdam, you must be there with him. For God's sake, what are you going to do there? Those things lead to unnecessary envy. Can you make a pitch? You have a CEO who has 5 million pounds to drop now, and he has 10 seconds attention span. Do you know what to say? I don't even know what to say. I'm a researcher. So I need somebody in my team who will go there, and in 5 seconds, he has captured the attention of the CEO. And in 5 minutes, the CEO has written a check of 5 million pounds. You think I should not value that kind of person? I would say because the only thing he just said was I'm the one in the lab, I'm the one suffering. I'm taking time here because this is very important in our environment. These are some of the issues. These are the real issues. So we need to learn how to value people. We need to learn how to collaborate. And then if we be a collaborator, if you've improved on yourself, it will be easier to collaborate. In all sincerity, in all fairness to some that don't like collaborating, they've tried it and got their fingers burnt. They've tried it and got their fingers. Somebody is claiming that you should give the person just calculated, this thing is 10 million naira, and divided it by 3. We are 3 in the team. So 5 million divided by 3, this amount, give it to me. Now, it doesn't work like that. So I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe as a parting shot, because you have delved a little into it, collaboration. What has been your impact on mentoring those below you?
Okay. Yes. That's
just 1 minute. So
okay. Yeah. Of course, I'm a lecturer, so I supervise masters, PhD, and so on and so forth. So what I do is that automatically, the students that are working under me get involved in what I'm doing. But I'm also very careful. So I expose you to things when I know you have built capacity to handle it. Because we are living in this environment, we also have to be careful. There are some things you miss just because someone in your team has messed up. So one has to be careful. So that's one way of mentorship. The grants application, I carried colleagues along. Okay, let's go apply for this. We may win it, we may not win it, but you've gained some experience. So that's one way of doing that. In addition to that, okay, let me allow you to talk.
Yes, so what I do every year, I look at my project students, undergraduates, 1 or 2 of them who is very good, and I try to retain them. One of my BSc students is coming back for a master's degree now. She made a first class. And what I do, when I came back, part of the funds I got, I saw that a student, one of them was struggling with tuition, to pay her tuition. So the small money I got from the place I went to, I said, I'll pay for you this session. I paid school fees for her that session. She was my project student, so I did it. So anytime I have money, I do it every session. If I have any student that is indigent, I try to assist in 1 or 2, either upkeep or tuition. I do it. So it's a way to retain them. And if they want to come for a further degree, I encourage them to come for a master's degree. Presently, yesterday we considered our PG applications, and 3 of my students are coming back for master's degree in my department.
By the way, I also fully sponsor PhD programs. So PhD is working under me. I pay their fees as well.
That's under the project. Is it under, there are 2 different things. I pay under my project, or I'm such a big boy and I have a lot to. So I want you to answer that. That's important, especially for those who are aspiring towards it.
For the BSc students, it's not tied to the project. Even though I get the money from there, it's not tied to the project.
Yeah, that's BSc. BSc
it's not tied to the project.
Yes.
But if I have a master's student and I have that funding, it will be under that project.
Exactly. That's what happens in many areas. Yes.
Okay. A particular case under a grant, the PhD student is working with us, with my team, in a funded project. So out of the funding from the grant is what I used to pay. In other cases, from what I get for a research effort, if that student is involved in it, from my own pocket, from what is due to me, I used to fund some of their studies. Thank you.
That's so great. Thank you so much. Please, let's give them a round of applause as they depart. So thank you. So we'll be entering immediately the second aspect, which is now for us. They will still be with us, and then they can also get the mic and then also be involved in some of the answers. Do we have the ushers here? Because they need to have the mic on the other side. Because the essence of this program is not just for us to listen to the experts, but we too must ask certain incisive questions because there will be burning issues in our minds. Dr. Simon Bob talked about the issue of indirect costs to the institutions. And that's an important one because we earn our primary fees from the university, and so for many institutions abroad, they actually survive with some of these indirect costs. We in Africa have not really built our institutions to such a level that the institutions can benefit maximally from all of this. So it's important that even in writing for grants, and some of the grants insist that you should have something to your university, so we should be able to take a cue from him and try to have some degree of funding for our institution. However, that also creates a challenge. The money comes in, and then you now find that if not well managed, you now have battles and quarrels, and some persons have even abandoned their projects because they thought that from the indirect costing, they will be able to get some things that will help them individually and also help in advancing their projects. So it's something that you must consider. At this point too, I must also give credence to DREED and its director. We've had some experience in this regard. Many people don't seem to trust the institution, and they are so scared of bringing some of their projects into the institution. However, from my own personal experience, I haven't worked with DREED for the last couple of months. I must say that there is some lease of life that has been breathed into the directorate, and I'll ask the director, please stand up, let's clap for you. From my own personal experience, Professor Ngozi Onuigbe. So it's nice, once you have some of those things, it's good to discuss with the agencies that are involved, with DREED, with TED Fund, with IPPTO, and then they'll be able to give you some insights into how you can beat some of the bureaucracies. Then you also have the institution's hierarchy and the management. The essence is for us to be able to have some reasonable degree of transparency that makes it easier for researchers to bring in their grants to the university, believing that the university will assist and help them to actualize their grant objectives. So now we'll have some general discussions, Q&A, on these very important issues. So we'll start with a few. Okay, let's see the hands. We have one there, that's one, two. Okay, but I'm sure as we move on, a few others will raise their hands. But, okay, there's a third one there. But before that, I just want to ask a generic question. And any person can pick the mic before we take theirs. Why do you do research? I believe every person here, either a lecturer or a researcher, just one person, just raise your hand and let them give you the mic. What's your primary goal for doing research? Anybody? Okay, so you have the mic here. Let the mic go this way. So just give us in 30 seconds, 1 minute, why you do research.
Thank you. One of the reasons why we do research, I would say, one, to contribute to knowledge, secondly, to solve problems.
That's theory. I'm not saying why the research should be done. You are a lecturer in this university. Why are you doing your research?
I'm doing my research because I want to advance knowledge.
Exactly. Advance in your career.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to be cited, and I want to solve problems. That's my reason.
It's when you have started moving. See, graduate assistant, lecturer one, probably even when you are getting to you are still struggling. So at those instances, if you tell me that you want to advance, you want to go innovative, then you are probably a genius. At those times, it's just to advance your career, get some papers, and then once you have stabilized as senior lecturer and you know that there's no going back, then you can start thinking of all that. And then when you become a professor, obviously at that time, the unfortunate thing is that for many people, we have paid our dues, so I'm no longer coming. But for those who want to advance, that is the beginning of your advancement. So that's great. So let's hear there's a first question there, sir. You just introduce yourself and then try and go straight to the question.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Sunday Ogeregbe. I'm a professor in Department of Crop Science, Faculty of Agriculture in this university. Now, I just wanted to make a comment about inferiority complex. Let me call it that way. Inferiority complex. And one of the speakers, I think it was Osas, who said it when he prepared the compound that he needed in Holland for his research. And then he was surprised that the thing was as good as it was. And that is something that affects the majority of our people. And that is why we are still very backward, I'm sorry to say, the way we are in all aspects of our lives. So what I'm trying to suggest this morning is that the way to get away from this inferiority complex should be something we should start trying to teach ourselves and our students also, by bringing up programs, because most times you find that even the things that we do here have more quality than what they do overseas. I went to school in the United States, for example, so I can tell you that. But when you get over here, the way people are, the way they think and the way they behave is very, very discouraging to themselves. And so I wanted to point on what he said this morning, that inferiority complex is a problem for us. So please let us look for a way to correct it for the betterment of our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for Prof. But remember, even in saying that, he gave us the other perspective. And they used that statement about 2 or 3 times. He says, we are Nigerians, and we always have a solution to every problem. So for many Nigerians outside this country, they don't behave like this. The Nigerian gives you this air of superiority and gives you the feeling that he knows a lot. And you see how he did it. That night, I'm sure he didn't sleep. He went. Now, for some others, they will just come and say, let me confess. I've never done it before. The true Nigerian will not go and confess. That night, he will call all his colleagues from all parts of the world and ask them, how did you survive? Once they have told him, the next day he comes with bold face and tells you that he can do it. And he starts doing it. And you see how he did it. He was sending that person so that if there's a mistake, you say, you see, you gave me the wrong thing. But when he came out nice, he said, yes, you know, we do this routinely in Nigeria, so this is nothing. And that's it. Nigerians have a way of solving problems. All right, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Mine is just a contribution.
You introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, I am Professor Alex Enuneku, former HOD, Environmental Management and Toxicology, Faculty of Life Sciences. I was his HOD. And first of all, before I go into that, I want to thank the Director of GRID for this very, very, very engaging workshop. We have learned a lot. We are talking to ourselves, and I like it a lot, because that is the only way we can make progress. I want to correct an impression. Every HOD wants you to prosper. HODs are under immense pressures to make things work in their departments. They are answerable to their deans. They are answerable to the vice chancellor. So take, for instance, a period where results are considered, and one of your junior staff is a course advisor, and you are looking for the results, and the results are not there. And then you keep looking for for him for days. And then somebody whispers to you, oh, he has traveled out. And he did not confide in you. Please, this is money matter. We are all black people. This is money matter. I'm traveling now for such and such and such. The HOD will make provisions and ask another colleague to do the work you would have done, so that these students' results will come out on time. Not a situation where you see litigations all over the place because we abandoned our duties. Some of us have traveled out, Japan, name it, over 100 publications. And there are academic aspects that we're enjoying today by way of making money. So I just want to correct that impression. If you sit your HOD down, please, I just got this very juicy offer. I want to travel out to such and such a place. The HOD will, I've done it for many staff in the past. He will sit you down and show you how to navigate that path for taking permissions legally. And then he puts somebody in your place to do the work. And so the department is not put at risk. So I just want to make this contribution that whenever we are going out, let your HOD know. Or best, you can look for another colleague to do that work. So when the HOD is sweating, sleepless nights, looking for you, that colleague will walk up to him. So, oh, please, these are the results. I have been teaching his classes and so on. So I just want to make this correction, and I think it will make things work better. Osas, I love you. You are my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure he wasn't really referring to Osas. He was referring to virtually all of us. Exactly. So Osas has said now that if not that he confided, he had a toxic HOD. You say you're from toxicology, isn't it? Okay. Okay, no, because I was trying to think of, if you are a HOD in toxicology, that means you are a toxic HOD. All right, I think that was just a joke. But essentially, what we learn from that is that we must learn to bring people in and to be able to speak to them. That was actually part of the reason I asked about this so-called jealousy issue, whereby persons get to a level, they don't tend to see who they can trust. And sometimes a trust issue. So you find that you need to travel, there's something very important, but you can't trust your head of department enough to even let him know. And I'm aware of some departments, they have 3-4 professors, only 4 professors in the department, small department, but they don't see eye to eye. I'm aware, I know some, whereby once a PhD student is attached to you, he becomes an enemy. Like now, you say, yes, you have some who are coming in now. Once they come in and they say, this is my supervisor, automatically, he cannot even go near the door of the other person. It happens in this university, and we have seen it a lot, and I think that's most unfortunate. 4 individuals in the department, 4 professors, and they split the department into 4 parts. And so if you belong to me, you are an enemy to all the others. So that's something that I think we really need to work on, having some reasonable relationships with one another. But what you have said is very important. We must look for somebody if everybody in your department is your enemy, then there's a problem with you. You must look for a situation to also break into 1 or 2, so that on the day of trouble, there will be somebody who will stand for you. And especially somebody who's above you, preferably your head of department. But we too, as heads of department, we must also make ourselves accessible. If you are a tyrant head of department, then that becomes also a challenge. Because so if every person in your department is dodging and they can't speak to you, I think you two must also go back and think about how you are relating with the various persons who are around you. There's a third question from behind. I think I saw that hand. Okay, but no, since the mic is there, let's just hear from you, please. Very briefly, since
I want to thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank the organizers of this workshop. I'm Smart Mukuru, a nutritional biochemist from Faculty of Agriculture. First of all, I want to thank the organizers. Please don't give up. Why I'm saying this is because of my experience in this university. I resumed here October 2nd, 1991. It's 20 years as a professor here. And then what I'm seeing here, I'm so happy. The reason is that within 9.5 years, I finished from University of Ibadan. And each time I landed here, since I landed since then, I've been not be happy with so many things going. But I think what I'm seeing now looks like a step in the right direction. And when Professor Nokraya was the VC, he was pushing us along this line, quarreling with so many professors. They are not mentoring the students very well. And told them that when they arrive here, within a certain number, we are published with about 25 people. And why am I saying this? When I came here, I saw the population. I'm not too happy looking at our population in the university. I want to thank all those who have contributed. I want to thank the last HOD. But I want to say, from my little experience here, all these years, that sometimes I begin to wonder whether we're a first generation university. Because since I moved to so many universities, I've gone around the last few years, including World Bank's, SCS. I was among those going for Central Nigeria on behalf of NUC. Now, what I'm saying in essence is this. The last HOD spoke some things. When I look at some of our colleagues, their character as heads of department and dean, sometimes it pains me a lot. They've forgotten that it's just a period, a transient period, that they will soon lose place. Some just give them 2 years, they will share the place into two, just like the last speaker was talking about. But I want to advise the young people, don't give up. I suffered so much in this place. When I started here, I was about 20 years with my PhD. And as I'm telling you now, a professor was giving grant, 2 grants I wrote, 1994, up to you are not returning back to me. I was only lecturer one then. I can tell you,
you're actually entering into my trap.
So I can tell you,
Mama, I hope you don't mind. Let me just ask you. I have to ask you some direct questions.
Yes.
You're entering into my trap. They dealt with you, right?
Yes. I want to tell you how.
And I always like hearing those who they dealt with, what they are doing now to those. So I'll give you just 1 minute. Tell me what you are doing to make sure you are not dealing with the people who are coming after you.
By the grace of God, so many of the people who are professors have passed through me here. In fact, if you check those who are mentor, I create a room. Mentoring is not to turn you under me. Mentoring is to let what's inside you to come out very well and get some good direction.
So which department, sir? So
Animal
I will go and find out.
I'm a nutritional biochemist.
Nutritional biochemist.
Yes. So
any of his prodigies here? There are many. Okay, so please let's give me a round of applause.
So please,
great.
I want to advise. The world is a global village. And then those who have been in my class, I know that from 300 level, I started recommending to you to go and buy a man ticket in my biochemistry class.
Good.
They also ask, no can do, because if you check my library, whether it's big books, all of them, there are more than 10 million, they are there. I've developed myself over more than 40 years.
Thank you so much.
And I tell people that, look, what you are doing now gives you a living. Self-development gives you the fortune.
Yes.
So you must do self-development. And tell you that there's no way you go, you can never see awkward human beings. They are part of putting you in check. The ability to overcome them makes you a great man, a great woman.
Thank you so much.
So what we are saying in essence is that always be positive. Have a clear direction. I have both private sector experience and here.
That's
Up to
fantastic.
now, I'm still relating with them. By 2015, I was giving made fellow of Terra Institute of Marketing. Those who are in computer knew that by around 90s, I came there to do PhD computer science.
Wow.
And so on and on like that. The essence is to make sure that as an academic, you should be properly balanced. But I want to advise our colleagues, anywhere you are, you can hate a man, but you can hate a man's face, but like his work. And also know that, you see, this world you are in is just a phase. Somebody will take over your place tomorrow.
I think one of the great points that I can say here is that you have proven that you have invested in others. And for me, that's the biggest point. Thank you so much, sir.
So please,
and I really
don't give
appreciate.
up. And those in the center, please continue. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. All his mentees, I thought you will stand up for your guy here and give him a round of applause. That's great. I'm so happy about that. And you are not just talking it, but you are walking it. And that's great. And I think, yes, there was a last person there. Before it gets to her, there's one of the things that is also important that I must mention here. And when the speaker before the last was talking, it actually came to my mind. I work as a doctor, and sometimes we're on calls. And I remember those days that the females usually have one excuse or the other why they cannot be on call. Don't worry, it also happens to everybody. But usually because many are married, they need to go home at night, their children have fever. The men usually don't take permission for their babies having fever. And then somebody has to do the work. So you are covering. And then at the end of the month, did they pay them full? What about those who cover them? Do they pay them the same amount? They pay them the same amount because it's government work. All of us will earn the same thing. And sometimes we now start getting angry. I did 2 extra on your behalf. You earn the same money with me. Sometimes I now looked forward and I said the same thing. He travels to Netherlands. He earns some euros. He comes back. He pretends as if he has not eaten. He cleans the mouth. No oil at all. Nobody sees it. He just dodges back into the department. And that's what happens. Even amongst mentees, somebody has trained you. He has helped you. You have moved forward. And it's time for Christmas. And the person is like commoners like us. No single hamper at the end of the year. And then you call yourself a proper mentee. And that's why HODs won't sign for you when you are going away. If you bought a hamper for the last HOD at Christmas, and that's December, and in February you are going to the Netherlands, and you meet the HOD, will the HOD sign for you? He will sign. I'm telling you, we are human beings. I'm a HOD too. So I'm telling my people now, if you are here, make sure that I have hampers. All right, the last comment or question is from somebody I know so well, Dr. Agnes. I know you have some experience with gaining a project that went to Lokoja, so you share that short experience first before you give anything you want to say. So I'm putting you on the spot, but very briefly.
You're really putting me on the spot, Prof. It's a privilege to be here, everybody. Good evening, professors in the house and doctors, senior colleagues. I got
Introduce yourself first, please.
I thought you did that. Okay, I'm Dr. Agnes Legbeti. I'm from the Department of Linguistics, Faculty of Arts. I used to think that commercialization, research for commercialization was best with those in the sciences until I got a grant myself. And I got a grant because I moved with those who got grants in the field of language studies. It was quite amazing. In 2021, I was the only Nigerian who got a grant. I was invited to Germany for 2 weeks, and I came back with equipment worth over 4 million. Here's the catch. The equipment, I signed an undertaking. The equipment was not meant to be for me. It's a property of the host institution, the institution that stood in for me. I think generally, they are beginning to have some kind of experience with our people. We will collect the grant. The deliverables promised will fail. And so they are beginning to stop giving out individual grants. They now give it to institutions and hold the institutions responsible if you fail to meet up with the deliverables. I am privileged to know of an institution, a great one in Nigeria, who has been banned from accessing the grants that I accessed because the private, the PI failed to meet up with the promised deliverables. But Prof asked me about my experience with my host institution. Here's the thing. Probably my VC was handicapped. I think it was really, because when I finished the project, I worked with them for a year within which was the duration of the project, I wasn't given a job. Neither was I given anything. And after the Photoshop and everything that went on Facebook, yes, this institution hosted this and that was the end for me. And so I kept going like a beggar to the admin. Please, what's next now? I don't have a job. I have a PhD. What's up for me? Don't worry. We are looking at it. And another year rolled past, and there was no job. And there was nothing I could do. I had to leave the institution, go to another one. And now, fortunately for me, Uniben employed me just in December here. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm willing to share my experience. But my question, sir, which is what is actually making me stand up, is could I have navigated better? Because the equipment would have helped me to commercialize my knowledge, continue with the students in the other institutions that I'm working with, take them to the field, gather enough data, turn language to mines for money for the institutions. We have over 500 languages in Nigeria. A lot of them are undocumented. We still have many of the institutions out there willing to sponsor people, but you need to show evidence. The things that would have helped me project my students as capable, I've had to donate it somewhere else. So could I have navigated it better?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Prof, sir, I don't know if you got the question, because that to a very large extent falls with you. Now, I know the story. You get a grant, but the grant has to be domiciled in an institution. At that particular time, you don't really have a stable institution. And so you approach an institution and say, I would like to work with you so that I can get this grant. They've given me the grant, but without an institution, it can't start the work. And so they offer you what looks like an employment, but really not an employment, so that you can get the grant in and then do the work. And then it takes 1 year, you complete the work, and they tell you, oh, thank you so much. We are so glad that we hosted you for this grant. Yeah, you can go back to wherever you came from. And now you get a job somewhere, but because that grant was domiciled in the center, all the equipment that came with it will remain there, despite the fact that once you've left, nobody has the capacity to use them. What's the way around this? Does any person have the experience? This is the last major question. You have the experience with that? Okay, who has the mic, please? We should be closing this session in the next 5 to 10 minutes, so. Where's the mic? All right. Is there any other person who would like to comment on this particular issue before we close? Any experiences? Great. Good.
Good afternoon. My name is Adeze Onobogu, and I'm from Faculty of Education, Curriculum Instructional Technology. I'm a lecturer there. Although I've never traveled out for such experience, but I think since they didn't give her an employment, before taking their offer or before giving them, she should have gone to take a legal advice, and they would tell her what to do and how she should go about it. Probably she shouldn't have just leveraged on just that particular university, so that when this one turns her down, another university will give her the offer and also give her an employment. That's my take. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, we have run out of time. Okay, Prof, just the last comment on this. It's on this issue, right? Okay.
Thank you, sir. I think what happens is that because of the nature of our people, this tribalism and dichotism and what have you in our society is what brings this about. So she was unfortunate in a way because she was among people who did not even want her in the first place. So what I think I would advise is that when you have such an opportunity, look for your people. Look for your people and move. That's the way to do it here.
Thank you so much. So that's advice. You must learn from the masters. So I want to thank Professor Gedegbe, Professor Alex, Wonkolo, Dr. Legbeti, and all those who have made inputs into this particular session. I also want to thank the directors here present and the Vice Chancellor ultimately who has given the opportunity for this program. I'm sure the announcements will tell us about what we have in store for tomorrow. I think my parting shot still will be that we work in the university. The university must always learn to give support to each of these programs, both financially and morally. I heard in one of the last sessions, no, you must invest. And even in some of the investments, you cannot always be sure of getting profit. The university must be able to put in some money into some types of grants, hoping that you get it. And even if you don't get it, you will learn from that process. On that note, I want to thank you for having been a part of this session. I'm Professor Higa Inabudoso from the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology from the School of Medicine. Thank you very much, Drake, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Professor Ehiga. A round of applause for Professor Ehiga again. That was quite a robust session. Quickly, we will be taking the closing remarks from the director of DREED. Okay, I understand the programs director, the head of administration, DREED, will be doing the closing remarks. So let's invite Ms. Sonia Ogwehi to do the closing remarks and tell us what tomorrow will look like. Okay, a round of applause for her. That's the woman arranging your feeding and everything. Clap for her now.
Good afternoon, everyone. We sincerely thank all participants for their active engagement, insightful contributions, and commitment throughout today's pre-conference capacity building workshop. Your participation is central to achieving the objectives of advancing research, innovation, and enterprise at the University of Benin. Following today's session, the Directorate of Research, Innovation and Development, DREED, will be taking the following next steps. 1. Circulation of commercialization support forms. New forms will be shared with participating researchers to capture essential information on research outputs and innovations with commercialization potential. Participants are kindly encouraged to complete and return these forms promptly to facilitate the effective follow-up. 2. Commencement of the commercialization process. DREED will work in close collaboration with the Intellectual Property and Patents Transfer Office, IPTO, to commence structured engagement with researchers, including support on intellectual property protection, product development pathways, and commercialization strategies. 3. Support and inquiries. Participants should feel free to reach out with questions, requests for clarification, or further guidance. The DREED team remains accessible via our official DREED email addresses and all designated phone lines. 4. Conference proceeding reports. A comprehensive report detailing the proceedings, key discussions, and outcomes of both day 1 and day 2 will be compiled and shared with participants after the conclusion of the conference. Looking ahead to day 2, we encourage all participants to make themselves fully available for tomorrow's annual research conference and innovation fair, as the program promises to go several notches higher with expanded engagement, deeper insights, and greater opportunities for collaboration and impact. Please note, all PowerPoint presentations and certificate of attendance will be sent to your respective emails. Once again, thank you for your valuable participation and continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow by 9 a.m.